Chapter 2272. Throwing millions away, that's right. Don't hide behind a woman if you have the guts. Do you dare to fight me? Wang Xiao was seething with murderous intent. I've been annoyed with you for a long time. Today, I'll let you know that there are some people you can't afford to offend. I'll trap you for 10 breaths. Come out, otherwise, I'll order my men to kill Yin Bing and your tortoise. Yi Fei, don't go. I'll inform the elders of Lord Pan Palace to come over. Bai Yanran hurriedly shook her head at Yi Fei. After all, she had just fought a bloody battle with Yi Fei and they had perished together. Although a battle of consciousness wouldn't really result in death, if one's consciousness collapsed, the warrior would be in a weakened state. This was Yi Fei's current situation. Bai Yanran certainly didn't want Yi Fei to go out and lose his life. Although she knew that Bai Yanran had good intentions, the deathmatch arena was still some distance away from Lord Pan Palace. It wasn't realistic to wait for the experts of Lord Pan Palace to arrive. Moreover, with Wang Xiao's cultivation level, it was impossible for him not to see that both he and Bai Yanran were in a weakened state. Wang Xiao's sudden challenge at this time was self-evident. If I don't agree to fight, Wang Xiao will most likely attack me directly in the deathmatch arena. Moreover, I've come to the city of divine kings for Zhao Yu and the golden body of despair of the divine Lord Scroll. If I don't show some ability, the Lord Pan Hall might not give the golden body of despair to an outsider like me. Thoughts flashed through his mind. Yi Fei quickly made a decision. He took a step forward and said, Wang Xiao, if you want to fight, I'll keep you company. However, I want a lot of Xian veins from watching the battle just now. Now, I want to exchange some Xian veins. Go out first. I promise I'll be out in 15 minutes. All right, I'll give you 15 minutes. Wang Xiao's face was full of disdain. Seeing that Yi Fei didn't forget to exchange Xian veins at the brink of death, the surrounding warriors were all stunned. Only Bai Yanran seemed to have thought of something and looked at Yi Fei in surprise. She could vaguely guess what Yi Fei was going to do. One of Wang Xiao's followers also quietly reminded him, Young Master Wang, that kid's footsteps are unsteady. Maybe he also went to the life and death arena and was killed once. Why don't we just take him out and kill him? Idiot, the life and death arena is a special force that doesn't lose to the top 10 forces. It's best not to provoke them if possible. Although Wang Xiao was angry, he didn't lose his mind. He knew very well who he could provoke and who he couldn't. That follower refused to give up and said, but what if he asks the arena of life and death to intervene? That country bumpkin wants to ask the life and death arena to step in. You should know that even if the head of family Wang personally steps in, he can forget about asking the life and death arena to step in. If that country bumpkin really does that, he will only be asking for his own humiliation. Let's go. This time, I will let him know how serious the consequences of going against me, Wang Xiao. Wang Xiao led his people and swaggered out of the life and death arena. They directly occupied a large space outside. Wang Xiao had already decided that once Yi Fei came out, he would ruthlessly humiliate Yi Fei and let Yi Fei know how miserable the consequences of angering him would be. On the other side, Yi Fei also took the golden battle token and walked into the main hall of the life and death arena with Bai Yanran. Seeing the token in Yi Fei's hand, the steward in the main hall was shocked. The iron-faced old man also walked out indifferently with Mad Dog. I didn't expect that the king of 100 battles this time is actually a nameless person. You want to exchange for 1,000,000 Xian veins? Yi Fei's face twitched. He did want to exchange for Xian veins, but when he thought of Wang Xiao's aggressiveness and the dangers he might encounter in the city of divine kings in the future, Yi Fei finally gritted his teeth and said, I don't want to exchange for Xian veins. I only want the life and death arena. Promise me a few conditions. Are you really going to waste a golden battle token a deal with a good-for-nothing junior from a family Wang? The iron-faced old man looked at Yi Fei in surprise. If you have 1,000,000 Xian veins, you can hide in the life and death arena and cultivate for 3 to 5 years to break through to Dao Lord and Divine Lord. At that time, you won't be afraid that you won't be able to deal with Wang Xiao. Sorry, 3 years is too long for me. I have always been seizing every minute. Moreover, Wang Xiao can insult me, but he can't insult my friends. Since he dared to do it, I dare to let him pay the most painful price. Moreover, although 1,000,000 Xian veins was tempting, Wang Xiu's matter made Yi Fei understand that in the city of divine kings, he had no strength and no influence, but he had 1,000,000 Xian veins. This was the path to death. Since that was the case, why not use 1,000,000 Xian veins in exchange for the life and death arena to be his backer? This way, he could live longer in the city of divine kings. Yi Fei took out the golden battle token and solemnly handed it to the iron-faced old man. This scene also shocked by Yanran. Wang Xiu's slander made her angry, but Yi Fei's decisiveness shocked her even more. Just because she was slandered, Yi Fei was willing to throw 1,000,000 Xian veins just to make Wang Xiu apologize to her. This guy, what is he thinking? Bai Yanran was completely confused. The iron-faced old man, however, put away the golden battle token as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Since this is your request, the life and death arena will receive you. From now on, you can make 3 requests of us. As long as it is within this old man's ability, we will help you. All right, let me Mad Dog now. I want Mad Dog to fight for me. Yi Fei smiled brightly as he looked at the old man and the fair-skinned youth. For some reason, Mad Dog felt an incomparable sympathy for Wang Xiu when he felt Yi Fei's smile. After that, Mad Dog didn't say anything. He just bowed slightly to the old man, and his figure had already rushed out of the life and death arena like a flash of lightning. Country Bumpkin Yi, you finally came out. What are you waiting for? Die. When Wang Xiu saw a man in black rush out, he thought that Yi Fei had sensed that the situation wasn't right and wanted to break out and escape. Wang Xiu immediately unleashed all his cultivation and led a group of lackeys to attack fiercely. From the start, Wang Xiu didn't have any intention of fighting Yi Fei alone. Instead, he wanted to capture Yi Fei as soon as possible and ruthlessly torture and humiliate him. However, this time, Wang Xiu had clearly found the wrong person. When he rushed forward with a group of lackeys, he was shocked to discover that the man in black wasn't Yi Fei, but another fair-skinned youth. Moreover, this youth's face looked very familiar. You're not Yi Fei. You are Mad Dog. No. Wang Xiu frantically retreated, but soon he felt a sharp pain in his body. His bones were quickly crushed by Mad Dog. The excruciating pain made Wang Xiu scream like a ghost. It also scared the wits out of the lackeys who were about to rush forward. Didn't they say that they were going to gang up on Yi Fei? Why didn't Yi Fei come out? Instead, it was Mad Dog, who was number 1 on the torture list, who rushed out and ruthlessly beat up Wang Xiu. Chapter 2273. The Arena Master's favor after Mad Dog's attack. Only 2 sounds could be heard outside the arena. One was Wang Xiu's scream, and the other was the sound of Wang Xiu's bones being crushed by Mad Dog. Mad Dog was crazy, and even more ruthless. All of Mad Dog's opponents would leave an indelible impression of Mad Dog. Wang Xiu was the same. Facing Mad Dog, who was number 1 on the slaughter list and had comprehended the will of madness, Wang Xiu didn't even need to lift a finger. At the same time, due to Mad Dog's status in the arena of death, Wang Xiu's followers didn't even have the courage to persuade him, let alone help him. They could only watch as Wang Xiu fell to the ground and screamed. They were all dumbfounded. What was even more dumbfounded was Wang Xiu. He had clearly said that he would torture Yi Fei this time. In the end, Yi Fei was not tortured. Instead, it was Grand Young Master Wang who was being tortured like a dog. No matter how stupid Wang Xiu was, he also realized that something was wrong. His body was in intense pain, but his spirit was roaring angrily. Why? Why is the arena of death helping that country bumpkin? What benefits did he give you? My family Wang has plenty of treasures. I'll give you double. Before Wang Xiu could finish, Mad Dog's sharp claws had already pierced Wang Xiu's most important part. Any man who saw that part would be shocked and terrified. Oh my God, I seem to have heard the sound of eggs breaking. Wang Xiu's followers screamed. Bai Yanran happened to walk out of the gladiator arena. Hearing these words, even if she was ignorant of worldly affairs, her face flushed and she glared at Yi Fei. Wang Xiu will definitely hate you for doing this. After all, there was no greater enmity than the fact that their eggs were broken in front of everyone. Actually, Yifei hadn't expected Mad Dog to be so ruthless when he went crazy. He had almost castrated Wang Xiu on the spot. But when he thought about how Wang Xiu had slandered him and Bai Yanran, Yifei couldn't help but feel angry. He deserves it. Wang Xiu, you can come to me if you want, but you threatened my friend and slander Bai Yanran. You're asking for it. Apologize to Bai Yanran immediately. Kill me, Yifei. Kill me if you dare. I, Wang Xiu. Wang Xiu's words, Wang Xiu, Wang Xiu. He spat out a mouthful of blood. With such a great humiliation, he simply wished he could perish together with Yifei. So how could he open his mouth to beg for mercy? As the young master of family Wang, Wang Xiu was quite strong-willed. Faced with this strong-willed attitude, Yifei only sneered and shook his head. Mad Dog, your methods are still too gentle. To deal with a self-righteous young master like him, breaking his bones is not enough. You have to heal his injuries and break his bones again. Mad Dog's eyes lit up. He actually cupped his hands at Yifei seriously. I've learned something. Hiss. Breaking his bones once was not enough. You have to break his bones a second time. Wang Xiu had already tasted that kind of pain once. He definitely didn't want to experience it a second time. Wang Xiu's expression was full of fear. Yifei, you devil. My family Wang won't let you off. Yifei sneered. If you don't apologize to Bai Yanran and retract your slander, I won't let you off. I'll give you 3 breaths of time. 1, 2. I apologize. Bai Yanran, I'm sorry. I slandered you. I apologize to you. Before he could count to 3, Wang Xiu had already endured the agony and pain and hurriedly apologized to Bai Yanran. Bai Yanran glanced at Yifei, then waved his hand and said, Leave. Don't appear in front of me again. The Lord Pan Palace no longer welcomes you. It was only then that a few of his followers dared to come over and lift Wang Xiu up. One of them even carefully touched Wang Xiu to see if his bones were broken. Wang Xiu was so angry that his vision turned black. He vomited blood and fainted on the spot. Seeing that there was no more drama to watch, the onlookers dispersed. However, many of them secretly remembered Yifei's name. At the same time, the nickname of Demon Yi slowly spread along with these people's words. Yifei was very depressed about this. However, Bai Yanran looked at Yifei without blinking. He asked somewhat mockingly, You lost millions of mystic veins for an apology. Does this feel good? Good. As the saying goes, millions of mystic veins can't buy one's innocence. I don't care what others think, but in my heart, your innocence is more important than millions of mystic veins. Yifei's expression was very serious. However, this didn't mean that he had any thoughts about Bai Yanran. If the one being slandered was Lu Qing, Shang Luo, Yi Xiaochan, or even Yin Bing, he would do the same. Forget about 1,000,000 profound veins. Even if it was 10 million profound veins, so what? After hearing Yifei's words, Bai Yanran, who only wanted to make fun of him, couldn't help but become flustered again. The iron-faced elder also looked at Yifei with a strange light in his eyes. Not greedy, not arrogant, just based on the hot blood in your heart and the sharp sword in your hand. You are very good. If you're interested, I can recommend you to join the Deathmatch Palace. What? Deathmatch Palace? Mad Dog's expression changed. The Deathmatch Arena was a subsidiary of the Deathmatch Palace. However, very few people knew about this. Bai Yanran's eyes widened in shock. This guy had thrown away millions of mystic veins in a hot-headed manner. He had actually gained the recognition of the Deathmatch Palace? No, you can't go to the Deathmatch Palace. You are a member of the Lord Pan Palace. Come, follow me back to the Lord Pan Palace. Before Yifei could speak, Bai Yanran had already grabbed Yifei's arm and dragged him outside with all his might. After all, this guy was very likely to be a branch of the Heavenly Palace of Despair. How could he let the Deathmatch Palace rope him in? Yifei could only smile bitterly. He cupped his hands at the iron-faced elder and said, Thank you for your kindness, Senior. Although I can't give you an answer now, I will consider it. All right, if you have thought it through, bring this token to me. If you're in danger, you can activate this token and state your remaining 2 conditions. The iron-faced elder threw another silver token to Yi Fei. Then, they led Mad Dog back to the deathmatch arena. Yi Fei took the token with both hands. He didn't say anything. He only bowed deeply to the elder and thanked him for his help. Let's go. Let's hurry back to the Lord Pan Palace. Bai Yanran didn't care that much. Perhaps she realized that she couldn't drag Yi Fei away by his arm, so she actually grabbed Yi Fei's collar, intending to lead him away. Yi Fei's face darkened. He realized that Bai Yanran, who looked cold, had a very, very bad temper. It was best not to provoke a woman like her. Thinking of this, Yi Fei immediately found an excuse. All right, my dragon turtle is still at the Yin residence. I will go over now and get it back. Yi Fei, don't look for excuses. I will send someone to the Yin residence to get your turtle back. Now, hurry up and come with me to see the Lord Pan Palace. Chapter 2274. Yin Bing's Danger. What? Yi Fei is staying in Lord Pan Palace and is bringing back the dragon turtle. When Yin Bing heard the news from the Lord Pan Palace, she was stunned. The dragon turtle was in tears. Even though Yin Bing liked and cared for it a lot in the Yin clan, she had obviously misunderstood the dragon turtle's eating habits. Seeing that the dragon turtle seemed to like eating buns, Yin Bing bought various kinds of dragon meat buns and tiger meat buns every day. Although these things were indeed delicious, they could only satisfy the appetite and not provide much energy. This made the dragon turtle, who was used to eating black stones every day, miserable. Although the dragon turtle ate more and more buns every day, it had lost a lot of weight in just a few days. What the dragon turtle urgently wanted now was to return to Yi Fei's side. Hearing that Yi Fei finally remembered him, the dragon turtle was naturally excited. However, seeing the dragon turtle's tearful expression, Yin Bing misunderstood and thought that the dragon turtle was also reluctant to leave her. Yin Bing hugged the dragon turtle and said sadly, "Little turtle, you also can't bear to leave me, right? Then I won't return you. You could just stay by my side in the future." Roar? The dragon turtle's face was ashen. Just as it was about to struggle out of Yin Bing's arms, the angry roars of vicious beasts suddenly came from outside the courtyard. Yin Bing was very confused. Other than the vicious beasts that she picked up, even the servants rarely came near her courtyard. Why would the angry roars of vicious beasts be heard? Then, a dignified voice came from the courtyard. Look at the state of this courtyard. Those who know will know that this is the Yin residence. Those who don't will think that this is a kennel. Hurry up and chase these vicious beasts away. From tomorrow onwards, clean up this courtyard. Zhou, and I will live here. Yin, what do you mean? This is my courtyard. Who are you to mess around here? Yin Bing's face was cold as she rushed out with the dragon turtle in her arms. In the courtyard, many of the ferocious beasts' huts had been demolished. Some of the ferocious beasts that had resisted had been chased away and beaten up by the Yin family's cultivators. This was also the reason why the ferocious beasts were roaring. However, the ferocious beasts were very obedient to Yin Bing's words. Even if they were angered, they did not make any moves to attack. Even so, Yin Yu still did not let these ferocious beasts go, nor did he intend to let Yin Bing go. Yin Bing, you came out just in time. Starting tomorrow, you will enter the Wang family. In the future, you will no longer be a member of the Yin family. As for this courtyard, I've already spoken to my father. He has already agreed to bestow this courtyard to me. It will be used as my and Zhou's bridal chamber. While speaking, Yin Yu was still leaning on the white-haired old man. However, the white-haired old man did not look at her. Instead, he stared at Yin Bing's body with a burning gaze. But when he thought about how Yin Bing was the woman reserved by the family Wang, the old man sighed inwardly. In fact, compared to Yin Yu, Yin Bing was much better in terms of appearance and talent. This was also the reason why Yin Yu had always been jealous of Yin Bing and wanted to harm her. As Yin Yu's fiancé, the white-haired old man could only stand on Yin Yu's side. He scolded Yin Bing with a cold face. You have heard Yin Yu's words. From now on, this courtyard belongs to Yin Yu. Hurry up and chase these filthy beasts out of the residence. Roar. The white-haired old man's words completely enraged the vicious beasts. The dragon turtle even spat out a mouthful of dragon flames at the old man. The old man sneered and unleashed his Tao Lord cultivation. Not only did he block the dragon turtle's attack, but he also warned with a frosty expression, "Yin Bing, I will give you one last chance. Chase these beasts away immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." The white-haired old man was already impatient with these vicious beasts that Yin Bing had picked up. The vicious beasts did not leave. Instead, they consciously protected Yin Bing. Some vicious beasts even planned to attack the white-haired old man. Yin Bing's face was pale. She put down the dragon turtle and calmed the vicious beasts. "Don't be rash. Yin Yu, the residents' Wang family promised me a month to break through to the 5th grade bloodline. Why did you change your mind at the last minute? I want to see father." She could not accept such a fate. Yin Yu and the white-haired old man sneered. At the same time, a middle-aged woman walked into the courtyard and tried to persuade her. "Yin Bing, don't be stubborn. It was the decision of the entire residence Wang to let you enter the family Wang. Moreover, the family Wang has already promised that as long as you enter the family Wang, not only will they not harm you, but they will also give your bloodline the possibility of breaking through to the 6th grade bloodline. This is great news for you." This woman was Yin Bing's father's second wife and stepmother. However, she did not come to help Yin Bing. Instead, she came to persuade Yin Bing to jump into the fire pit. Yin Bing was so angry that her body trembled. Even her fingers were clenched so tightly that they turned blue and white. "Mother, this is your attitude. When I was young, you deliberately left me by the sea and let the sea snake attack me. I don't blame you. All these years, you deliberately neglected me and let me live in the most remote house and eat the worst food. I don't blame you. But why do you still want to push me into the fire pit? Why do you want to destroy everything I have? Is it only because I'm not your biological daughter? Is it only because you can't bear to sacrifice your own daughter? Is it only because you want to get rid of me, the thorn in your side?" Yin Bing's tears gushed out. At this moment, the grievances and pain that she had hidden in her heart all burst out. Hearing this, many warriors of the Yin residence could not help but secretly sympathize with Yin Bing. However, when these words reached the ears of Yin Yu and the middle-aged woman, they were furious. "Little bitch, shut up. I raised you, took care of your stepmother's health, and worried about your biological mother's heart. What have I done to wrong you, little bitch? You slander me like this, and even spread rumors that I wanted to harm you. I think you've really lost your mind." The middle-aged woman was so angry that she was trembling all over. Yin Yu also ordered viciously, "How dare you be disrespectful to my mother? Men, strip her of her clothes and slap her mouth. Make this little bitch kneel down and apologize to my mother." The warriors who had come this time were all the middle-aged woman's trusted aides. When they heard Yin Yu's order, although they sympathized with her, they immediately moved to take Yin Bing down. Roar! However, before they could even get close, the ferocious beasts nearby were already completely enraged. When they saw that Yin Bing was being threatened, these earthly venerate and heavenly venerate ferocious beasts actually went berserk and charged towards the Yin family's rulers. These Yin residence warriors were at a loss. Then, the middle-aged woman's angry voice rang out. "What are you all standing there for? It's just a bunch of beasts. Kill them all. Our Yin residence is a place for humans to live in, not for these beasts to live in. Kill them all." Chapter 2275. Wound to the dragon turtle Dinyo. Yin Bing suddenly burst into tears. That green cow was the first vicious beast that she had taken in. At that time, the green cow's horns had been destroyed, and it had been chained by its owner, who had planned to hang it under a big tree together with the calf in its womb. It was her who had been moved by compassion and saved the green cow, allowing it to rest peacefully and give birth to the calf. The past was still vivid in her mind, but it had only been a few years. Now, the green cow had died, tragically under Yin Yu's hands. On the other side, the calf had gone completely crazy. It wailed and pounced towards its mother's broken body. But then, beside Yin Yu, the grizzled old man stretched out his hand and directly grabbed the calf's neck in midair. This calf is not bad. We can kill it to celebrate our new home. The grizzled old man was expressionless. With a crack, like crushing an ant, the calf was also crushed to death in midair. Ah! Yin Bing screamed. She couldn't endure this moment any longer. Her eyes were filled with hatred, but on her face, fresh tears flowed down her cheeks. She took out her dagger and rushed towards Yin Yu and the grizzled old man at the fastest speed possible. She wanted to take revenge for the dead Niao and Xiaoniao. Seeing Yin Bing's actions, a disdainful cold smile appeared on Yin Yu's face. Big sister, you are really stupid. It's just two beasts that died, and you are so agitated. Zhou Lang, why don't you capture her and let her see these vicious beasts die with her own eyes? Haha, you are my fiancé. Since you have such interest, how can I not comply? Yin Bing, come over here. The grizzled old man laughed coldly and suddenly stretched out his hand again, grabbing towards Yin Bing. At this moment, the other Yin clan practitioners also attacked viciously under the middle-aged woman's command, killing all the vicious beasts that dared to resist. Yin Bing was in complete despair. A gloomy aura of death appeared on her face. At the same time, her bloodline, her source energy, everything about her was burning. And this burning energy converged into a resplendent beam of divine light that pierced straight towards Yin Yu. Yin Yu's face was instantly filled with fear. She was so frightened by Yin Bing's current appearance that she retreated continuously. The white-haired old man roared angrily. He changed his grip into a slap. With his Tao Lord realm, he directly shook off Yin Bing's dagger and slapped towards Yin Bing's body. But at this moment, a one-armed old ape roared as it charged over from the distance. The old ape's body was still stabbed with a sword. It was obvious that it was seriously injured. But when it saw Yin Bing in danger, the old ape still used its own body to shield Yin Bing. Don't! Yin Bing's heart was completely shaken. She screamed and tried her best to protect the old ape, but what she saw was the old ape's broken body and the grizzled old man's dark force palm that continued to grab her. At this moment, the dragon turtle's loud roar suddenly came from the Yin clan's courtyard. A black turtle the size of a round table suddenly blocked in front of Yin Bing, causing her heart to tremble even more. Don't hurt it, it's not die. Without any words, the giant dark force palm struck the dragon turtle. At this moment, the dragon turtle had completely regained its tyranny in the outer sea. It roared, and billowing demonic fire and poisonous wind formed two tornadoes, one black and one green. They rushed forward and engulfed all the ancient martial art practitioners of the Yin family. At the same time, the dragon turtle opened its mouth, and a basin-sized resplendent dragon pearl fiercely collided with the grizzled old man's dark force palm. Bang! The giant dark force palm suddenly shattered. At the same time, cracking sounds were heard. Countless cracks actually appeared on the dragon turtle's resplendent dragon pearl, and its radiance dimmed. Puff! The dragon turtle couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood when the dragon pearl cracked. It also caused the grizzled old man's expression to become gloomy. He was a Tao Lord, but his attack was blocked by a sovereign realm turtle. The old man couldn't tolerate this. The old man's true Tao Lord aura also appeared on his body. There was also a tragic killing intent. Feeling this killing intent, Yin Bing's expression trembled. Suddenly, she lightly patted the dragon turtle's back. Perhaps this is my fate. However, I can die, but you are innocent. Whoosh! Yin Bing suddenly turned the dagger around and placed it on her neck. At this moment, she was unusually calm and determined. Let these vicious beasts and the dragon turtle go. I'll let you do whatever you want with me. Otherwise, I, Yin Bing, will kill myself here. Without any hesitation, the dagger had already drawn a bloody wound on her neck. Fresh blood flowed out and dyed Yin Bing's white palace dress red. Yin Yu and the grizzled old man's expressions changed drastically. The middle-aged woman's expression was vicious. She sneered. Little bitch, you've really grown up. Since you don't want to acknowledge me as your mother, I'll treat it as if I don't have a daughter like you. Do it." Without a sound, a figure appeared behind Yin Bing. Suddenly, a palm struck out, causing Yin Bing to stagger. The dagger in his hand also fell to the ground. After that, a chain with a hook suddenly pierced through Yin Bing's sternum, sealing his cultivation. Seeing this scene, the surviving ferocious beasts suddenly let out a loud roar in unison. Then, they began to charge towards Yin Bing without caring about anything else. They used their own flesh and blood in an attempt to crush that figure and save Yin Bing. "Go, all of you go. I don't want to see you." Yin Bing also cried out in pain. However, none of the vicious beasts turned back. They all charged forward. In the end, Yin Bing could only look at the dragon turtle in despair. "Little turtle, quickly go and find Yi Fei. Roar." The dragon turtle's entire body was burning with demonic flames. Its eyes were red, but the dragon turtle did not act rashly. Instead, it looked at Yin Bing one last time. A pair of dragon wings suddenly sprouted from its huge tortoise body, and it rushed out of the Yin residence. Those were the azure dragon wings that Yi Fei had modified and given to the dragon turtle. In the past, the dragon turtle had been lazy and did not learn it. However, at this moment, the dragon turtle had completely displayed this remarkable ability. It also quickly escaped the pursuit of the Yin family's warriors. Only the dragon turtle's sorrowful and furious roar could be heard in the night sky. However, a final smile appeared on Yin Bing's face. "Goodbye, little turtle. Goodbye, Yi Fei. Perhaps this is my fate." Yin Bing smiled. However, she wanted to bite the poison sac in her mouth. This was a backup plan that she had prepared beforehand. If she could not resist, then she would die. Unfortunately, the middle-aged woman's cold gaze was already fixed on Yin Bing. She did not give Yin Bing a chance to bite the poison sac. The middle-aged woman had already rushed forward and dislocated Yin Bing's chin. "If you want to die, sure. However, you can only die in the family Wang and not in the Yin residence. Men, kill all the vicious beasts that this little bitch brought back. Do not leave a single one behind." Yin Bing's body trembled violently. Tears fell from her eyes like a waterfall. The figure standing behind Yin Bing could not help but tremble. He could not help but say, "Madam, why do you have to do this?" Chapter 2276. 3 Breaths. Viciousness flashed across the middle-aged woman's eyes. Following her orders, the martial artists of the Yin clan no longer held back. In less than 10 breaths, within a few breaths, all the vicious beasts in the courtyard were killed. Yin Bing's body was chained, and his cultivation was sealed. He was escorted into the inner courtyard by the warriors of the Yin family. From the beginning to the end, the middle-aged man only sighed and did not say anything to stop them. He even personally sealed Yin Bing's cultivation. Roar! In the sky above the city of divine kings, the dragon turtle was roaring in grief. The dragon turtle had never felt so sad before. Seeing the vicious beast that it used to play with dying tragically and Yin Bing being captured, the dragon turtle's crimson eyes still shed tears. At the same time, a few warriors of the Yin family were chasing after the dragon turtle with all their might. The middle-aged woman was very vicious. After all, what happened today was a scandal of the Yin family. Even if it was only a dragon turtle that escaped, the middle-aged woman would not be at ease. She wanted to kill all of them. Yi Fei also did not know that such an unforeseen event had happened to the Yin family while he was fighting for the title of king of 100 battles in the arena of life and death. After being forcefully dragged back to the Lord Pan Palace by Bai Yanran said hurriedly, "Yi Fei, wait here first. I will report your matter to the old ancestor of the Lord Pan Palace. Perhaps the old ancestor will be merciful and allow you to officially join the Lord Pan Palace." After saying that, Bai Yanran quickly rushed into the depths of the Lord Pan Palace. However, Yi Fei still felt uneasy. Xiao Chao was also eating candied haws in the beast-marked space out of boredom. As he ate, Xiao Chao habitually turned back to see if the dragon turtle had secretly eaten the magnetite. However, Xiao Chao did not see the dragon turtle when he turned back this time. Xiao Chao's heart felt empty. Squeak. Xiao Chao felt wronged for some reason. Yi Fei was also very helpless, but he still promised, Xiao Chao, don't worry. After we meet old ancestor Pan Wang, I'll get Dragon Turtle Yin Bing back no matter what. After all, even without the Dragon Turtle, Xiao Chao would still throw a tantrum. Roar. At this moment, a loud roar came from the sky above Lord Pan's palace. Xiao Chao perked up and Yi Fei looked up in confusion. That's strange. Wasn't Dragon Turtle held tightly by Yin Bing? Could it be that he missed Xiao Chao and came back? Xiao Chao shook his head, indicating that something was wrong. He even looked at the sky nervously. Yi Fei's relaxed expression also became extremely serious when he saw the Dragon Turtle. At that moment, the Dragon Turtle's eyes were crimson red, and the aura on its body was flickering. It was clear that he had suffered heavy injuries. Blackie, what happened? Who hurt you? Yi Fei and Xiao Chao exploded at the same time. Although the Dragon Turtle usually had bad habits, it was still his and Xiao Chao's common companion. Roar, roar. The Dragon Turtle shed tears and pounced at Yi Fei's feet. The corner of its mouth was still bleeding, but its eyes flashed with pain and hatred. Boom! The Dragon Turtle didn't say anything. It only condensed the things that happened in the Yin residence into its consciousness and entered Yi Fei and Xiao Chao's foreheads. The scene of the Yin residence immediately appeared in Yi Fei's mind. He saw the vicious beasts sacrificing themselves to protect Yin Bing and falling into a pool of blood. He also saw Yin Bing's ribs being pierced and his cultivation being sealed. He was completely controlled by the Yin family's practitioners. He also saw Yin Bing's expression of despair when a vicious middle-aged woman snatched away his poison sac. With a boom, Yi Fei's mind exploded. Yin Bing had suffered such a tragic fate while he was away from the Yin residence. Xiao Chao was so angry that his eyes widened. A five-color divine flame burned on his body. Xiao Chao was really angry this time. Yi Fei also took out a large amount of magnetite and fed it to the Dragon Turtle. However, the Dragon Turtle didn't eat it this time. It only looked at Yi Fei pleadingly. Blackie, don't worry. I'll save Yin Bing right now. Not only will I save Yin Bing, but I'll also make the Yin family pay with their blood. Boom! A strong killing intent appeared on Yi Fei's body. Huge dragon wings spread out behind him. As he put the Dragon Turtle back into the beast mark space, Yi Fei strode out of the Lord Pan Palace. At this moment, 3 Dao Lords blocked Yi Fei's path. Yi Fei, you can't go out yet. You can't go anywhere before the Patriarch confirms your identity. Yi Fei suppressed his anger and said, My friend is in danger now. I beg you to save her. No, you've already offended the family Wang and put the Lord Pan Palace in a passive position. We won't allow you to offend the Yin family too. The Dao Lords chattered. Yi Fei was furious when he heard this. He suddenly roared and punched at the Dao Lords with his fists glowing with purplish gold light. Scram! My business has nothing to do with the Lord Pan Palace. I'll save my friend, even if I have to go through hell. Bam! The Dao Lords were caught off guard and were smashed away by Yi Fei's fists. At the same time, Yi Fei had transformed into an azure dragon and rushed out of the Lord Pan Palace, heading for the Yin family. However, he was still a step too late. The entire Yin family was already heavily guarded. When they saw Yi Fei coming, the Yin family's martial artists immediately surrounded Yi Fei and looked at him coldly. You're Yi Fei, the wild man my daughter found from who knows where? I'll give the Lord Pan Palace some face now. Scram back to the Lord Pan Palace now and swear that you'll never have anything to do with my daughter again. Then, I'll spare your life. The middle-aged man walked out of Yin Bing's courtyard with a dignified expression. Yi Fei suddenly spat at him when he saw this person. You cold-blooded old bastard. Yin Bing is your daughter, but you pushed her into the fire pit. If I didn't want to keep you alive and hand you over to Yin Bing, I would kill you, you old dog. How dare you? Do you know what serious consequences you'll face if you say this? The middle-aged man was completely enraged. Yes, he had pushed Yin Bing into the fire pit, but he had done so for the sake of his entire family. He didn't think that he had done anything wrong. On the contrary, it was Yi Fei's angry scolding that caused the middle-aged man to emit an uncontrollable killing intent. Feeling this killing intent, Yi Fei suddenly smiled coldly. What? You want to kill me? You old dog, you don't have that ability. Go and tell your vicious wife that if she doesn't hand over Yin Bing and the vicious beast that harmed Yin Bing and the dragon turtle within 3 breaths, I, Yi Fei, will flatten the Yin family today and exterminate your entire family. Boom! As he spoke, an even stronger and fiercer killing intent erupted from Yi Fei's body. What had happened to Yin Bing and the dragon turtle had thoroughly enraged him. Hearing this, the middle-aged man flew into a rage and roared loudly. You're going against the heavens. You're just an outsider. Do you think that you can behave atrociously in my Yin family just because you're from the Lord Pan Palace? Men, come. Kill him. Chapter 2277. I want him dead. The warriors of the Yin family quickly surrounded Yi Fei in an orderly manner. They had some reservations about attacking Yin Bing, but they weren't worried about Yi Fei at all. The white-haired old man even unleashed the cultivation of a Dao Lord. Another giant dark force palm grabbed at Yi Fei. 1. Yi Fei raised a finger with a cold expression. At the same time, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. It was the figure of a Dao Lord. The Dao Lord attacked calmly. Another giant dark force palm slammed forward and collided with the white-haired old man's giant palm. A Dao Lord from the Lord Pan Palace? Have you thought this through? We have no intention of becoming enemies with the Lord Pan Palace. However, Yi Fei took the initiative to provoke the Yin family. He must die. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes. Disdain flashed across Yin Yu's eyes. A country bumpkin will always be a country bumpkin. Do you think you can act impudently in front of us just because you invited a Dao Lord? All of you attack. Chop off his limbs and drag him in front of Yin Bing. Yin Bing will naturally give up then. Although Yin Bing had been captured, Yin Bing's act of seeking death still shocked the Yin family. After all, Yin Bing was a cultivation material valued by the family Wang. He was also a bargaining chip for the Yin family to obtain the support of the family Wang. If they wanted Yin Bing to be hell-bent on joining the family Wang, just capturing him wasn't enough. They had to make Yin Bing give up completely. Capturing Yi Fei, torturing Yi Fei, and using Yi Fei's life to force Yin Bing to submit was the plan that Yin Yu and the middle-aged woman had come up with. In fact, even if Yi Fei hadn't come to the Yin family would have sent people to search for Yi Fei. Now that Yi Fei had walked right into the trap, it couldn't be any better. The white-haired old man was blocked. Immediately, a large group of Lord of Heaven cultivators charged forward. At this moment, Yi Fei raised a second finger. 2. Boom! Suddenly, a powerful Lord of Heaven's aura came from afar. A gap was suddenly opened in the group of Yin family cultivators surrounding Yi Fei. Then a pale-faced, crazy young man rushed in. This young man was Mad Dog. You're really a troublemaker. Behind Mad Dog were 9 ferocious-looking men and women. They were the top 10 of the torture list. Being able to fight as you please, isn't that what you want? Yi Fei smiled as he looked at Mad Dog. Mad Dog smiled back at him, but it was a cold, savage smile. Kill! Mad Dog and his 9 companions on the torture list charged madly at the Yin clan's heavenly monarchs. Under the relentless attacks of the torture list's heavenly monarchs, the heavenly monarchs who charged at Yi Fei screamed in agony. They couldn't even get close to Yi Fei. Yin Yu's face turned deathly pale in an instant. The middle-aged man and woman also turned deathly pale as they looked at Mad Dog and the others who had attacked them in shock. Then a huge wave of anger erupted from the Yin family cultivators. After all, this was the Yin family. How could they tolerate Yi Fei's impudence? Kill. No matter who they are or what power they come from, they must be prepared to die if they dare to provoke the Yin family. The middle-aged man and woman gave the order to kill. After all, the Yin family had the powerful family king backing them. So what if they offended the Lord Pan Palace? The Yin family still didn't know that the Lord Pan Palace wasn't backing Yi Fei, but the even more powerful Death Arena. 3. At that moment, Yi Fei raised his third finger. A terrifying aura suddenly appeared behind him once again. However, this time, it wasn't the Lord of Heaven, but the Tao Lords. These Tao Lords were all ferocious. There were old and young among them. They were all Tao Lords on the torture list, and were also the greatest force in the death arena that could stop a martialless winning streak. When these 10 Tao Lords appeared behind Yi Fei, the atmosphere in the entire Yin family became tense and austere. The Yin family cultivators were instantly thrown into chaos. After all, even Yi Fei couldn't control these Tao Lords. The moment they appeared, they had already started attacking the Yin family cultivators frantically. Corpses were strewn all over the ground. The Yin family cultivators all retreated in fear. The white-haired old man who was fighting screamed in fear. He recognized one of the old men. "Butcher, you are the Tao Lord Butcher of the torture list. You aren't from the Lord Pan Palace. You are martialist from the death arena." Boom! The white-haired old man's words made the middle-aged man and woman widen their eyes in shock. What? Death arena? Isn't this brat a random man that Yin Bing found? Isn't he just a bumpkin from outside? Why would the death arena stand on his side? The Yin family couldn't figure it out and didn't have the time to figure it out. While they were in shock, a large number of martialists had already been massacred by these torture list martialists. Stop. Let's talk this out. There must be some misunderstanding. Yes, a misunderstanding. This must be a misunderstanding. We definitely didn't mean to offend the death arena. We are willing to compensate. When they realized that the Yin family's opponent wasn't the Lord Pan Palace, but the death arena of the city of divine monarchs, the middle-aged man and woman were scared out of their wits. They suddenly regretted attacking Yin Bing too quickly and ruthlessly. They had angered Yi Fei and brought out the death arena. They couldn't afford to offend such an overlord force. Hearing their words, Yi Fei was furious. Is it a misunderstanding that you pushed your own daughter into the fire pit? Is it a misunderstanding that you killed those innocent, vicious beasts? What's more unforgivable is that you wanted to kill the dragon turtle. Since you dared to do it, you should admit to it. Tu Fu, kill him. I want him dead today. Yi Fei suddenly pointed at the white-haired old man. It was this man who had severely injured the dragon turtle. If the dragon turtle wasn't naturally good at defense and was forced to learn the azure dragon wings, Yi Fei wouldn't know how to explain it to Xiao Chao. Haha, kill. The butcher let out a bloodthirsty laugh and instantly rushed towards the white-haired old man, causing the latter to let out a scream of extreme terror. When the butcher rushed towards him, the white-haired old man was so terrified that he pulled his fiancée, Yin Yu, in front of him to block the bloody fist of the butcher. No, Yin Yu never dreamed that the man she had found, the man she had called Zhou Lang intimately, would use her life to exchange for his own at the critical moment of life and death. However, the white-haired old man didn't manage to escape because of this. The penetrative power of Tu Fu's blood fist was too terrifying. It was like a blood-red spear that pierced through Yin Yu's body and then through the white-haired old man's body. With a single punch, it shattered the white-haired old man's Tao platform. Yin Yu and the white-haired old man died at the same time. Chapter 2278. The Yin family was destroyed. The huge shock caused the middle-aged woman to let out a crazy roar. She didn't dare to vent her anger on the life and death arena, so she vented all her anger on Yi Fei. It's all because of you. If Yin Bing didn't bring you back, she wouldn't have resisted. My daughter wouldn't have died. I'll kill you. I'll kill you to avenge my daughter, just like how I killed that bitch back then. The middle-aged woman was so angry that she actually revealed a huge secret. After hearing this secret, the middle-aged man's entire body shook violently. They were both daughters, but why was he so cold towards Yin Bing and so doting towards Yin Yu? That was because, back then, Yin Bing's mother was rumored to have committed adultery and even committed suicide. This caused a huge shock to the middle-aged man, causing him to vent his anger on Yin Bing. As a result, he didn't care about how his wife treated Yin Bing. Until now, when the middle-aged woman spoke the truth in great grief and anger, the middle-aged man suddenly realized that Yin Bing's mother didn't commit suicide for love, but was killed by the middle-aged woman herself. Then, when the middle-aged woman told him that Yin Bing's mother had an affair with someone else, how much credibility was there? The middle-aged man instantly exploded. He suddenly rushed toward a warrior behind the middle-aged woman and viciously used both of his hands to choke that person's neck. He roared, "You! Tell me what happened back then. You are her absolute confidant. You must know. If you don't tell me, I will choke you to death." The middle-aged man used more and more strength, almost crushing that person's throat. The huge fear of death caused that person to instinctively want to live. He couldn't help but cry out in fear, "Patriarch, please spare me. This was all Madam's orders. It has nothing to do with me." Boom. The truth was revealed. The middle-aged man looked as if he had lost his soul. He looked at the middle-aged woman and thought about how Yin Bing had been treated for so many years. He was instantly enraged and roared as he charged towards the middle-aged woman and slapped her. "Vicious woman, you actually dared to lie to me. You actually dared to lie to me for so many years. Hit me. If you have the guts, then kill me. If it wasn't for my father's support, you wouldn't have been able to become the head of the family. If you have the guts, then kill me. Let's see how you explain this to my father." The middle-aged woman raised her head and looked at her husband viciously. Her expression actually scared the middle-aged man so much that his whole body trembled, and the slap he was about to deliver actually became hesitant. "Stop." Suddenly, an even more terrifying aura of a Tao Lord exploded forth from within the Yin clan. This was a half-step divine lord, and his face was wrinkled with age. "She's still my daughter. Even if she did something wrong, it's not up to you to lecture her. Get the hell out of here." This half-step divine lord old man was incomparably strong. As he spoke, all of the Yin family martial artists respectfully drew back. Listening to him was even more effective than listening to the patriarch. The middle-aged man was so angry that his entire body was trembling. However, he was like a mouse meeting a cat. He was very dejected and actually retreated behind the middle-aged woman. The middle-aged woman viciously slapped her husband across the face, causing him to feel even more humiliated and embarrassed. He originally thought that he would be able to watch a good show of internal strife, but in the end, this was the result. Yi Fei was left speechless. As a husband, you are a failure. As a father, you are an even greater failure. Can you even be considered a man? Shut your mouth. The middle-aged man was enraged. The middle-aged woman also glared at Yi Fei with a venomous gaze. "Father, it's him. He killed my daughter, your granddaughter. Hurry and kill him. Avenge Yin. Kill me? I'm afraid you won't have the chance. I already said that I won't release Yin Bing. Hand over the culprit who harmed Yin Bing and the dragon turtle. Today, the Yin family will be exterminated." Dong! Yi Fei took a step forward. His footsteps were as heavy as a mountain. Seeing Yi Fei's actions, Butcher and Mad Dog were stunned for a moment. Then they revealed excited, sinister smiles. Following closely behind, they approached the Yin residence. This kind of madness and killing instantly caused the Yin family's martial artists to panic. The half-step divine lord old man's snow-white eyebrows twitched violently. He stared deeply at Yi Fei and suddenly ordered, "Men, release Yin Bing." Obviously, under the great pressure of the life and death arena, the old man finally chose to swallow his anger and release Yin Bing first. Hearing the old man's order, someone quickly brought Yin Bing out of the prison. However, when Yi Fei saw Yin Bing again, he couldn't help but reveal a huge rage in his heart. The dragon turtle roared angrily. Ignoring its injuries, it rushed out of the beast-marked space. At this moment, Yin Bing didn't have the vitality she had before. Instead, her face was ashen. Her hands and feet were still shackled, and her ribs were pierced by long chains, directly sealing her sky palace and spiritual soul. "Yin Bing, I'm sorry. I'm late." Yi Fei felt an inexplicable sadness in his heart. Although he hadn't known Yin Bing for long, she was the first friend he had made in the city of divine kings. "You're not late. Seeing that little turtle is fine, and seeing that you're fine, I'm relieved. Yi Fei, thank you for coming to save me." Yin Bing's eyes dimmed. There was still a wound on her neck caused by the dagger. She really wanted to smile at Yi Fei in gratitude. However, when she thought of the vicious beast that had died for her tears fell like rain down her face. Roar! Roar! The dragon turtle let out a sorrowful roar. In the beast-marked space, Xiao Qiao was already crying and using Yi Fei's clothes to wipe away his snot and tears. Yi Fei didn't say anything. He just suddenly raised his hand and pointed at the half-step divine Lord Elder and the middle-aged woman. Finally, he pointed at the middle-aged man, who was also Yin Bing's father. Your life will be given to Yin Bing. As for your lives, I'll take them. Yin Bing's pain couldn't be suffered for nothing. The dragon turtle's blood couldn't be spilled for nothing. Those pitiful and adorable vicious beasts couldn't die for nothing. He wanted to destroy this cruel and cold-blooded Yin family. When they heard Yi Fei's words, the butcher and Mad Dog's expressions changed. However, they weren't afraid. Instead, they were filled with excitement as they charged towards the Yin family again. Brat, I think you're courting death. The half-step divine lord was completely enraged by Yi Fei's arrogance. Releasing Yin Bing was already his biggest compromise. However, Yi Fei still didn't want to let the Yin family go. Then, the Yin family only had one path left. That was to kill Yi Fei at all costs. The half-step divine Lord Elder was the first to attack. He charged towards Yi Fei in a rage. However, Yi Fei didn't even look at him. He walked directly towards Yin Bing, broke her chains, and broke her shackles. Yin Bing, I'm sorry. I made another decision that you might not be able to accept. No, you weren't wrong. They were the ones who were wrong. When they decided to send me to the family Wong and kill my closest friends, my heart was already dead. From today onwards, the life and death of the Yin family has nothing to do with me. Chapter 2279. Blood Rose Bastard Die. The half-step divine Lord Old Man roared in rage. Yi Fei actually dared to ignore him and go save Yin Bing. Yin Bing also dared to ignore him, to ignore the entire Yin family. The old man was thoroughly enraged. His half-step divine Lord Aura took the form of a hurricane that howled through the air, causing space to rumble as if it would crack apart at any moment. Yin Bing's face immediately paled. At this time, a hand gently pinched her pale face. Yi Fei chuckled. Don't worry, you have me. I guarantee you that your companions won't die in vain. Your blood and that of the dragon turtle won't be spilled in vain either. Yi Fei casually picked up Yin Bing and strode out of the Yin family. Above him, the half-step divine lord roared in madness. But the old man's attack was unable to land on Yi Fei. This was because above Yi Fei's head, a steel-masked old man had silently appeared. This old man was none other than the arena master of the deathmatch arena. Originally, this old man didn't want to appear. But Yin family, you've gone too far. You're even crueler and more excessive than us on the slaughter list. The steel-masked old man suddenly erupted with the aura of a divine lord. Before this aura, the half-step divine lord old man didn't have time to react. He felt intense pain throughout his body, and his white hair was dyed red with blood. You're that old Shui too. Divine Lord. The half-step divine Lord Old Man let out a pained and terrified cry. Then, his entire body seemed to be torn apart from the middle by a bloody hand. I didn't think that after so many years, there would still be people who remember this old man's name. The steel-masked old man stood proudly in the air with his hands behind his back. At the same time, a scarlet cloak appeared behind him. Upon seeing this cloak, the older generation Dao Lords of the Yin family all cried out in terror. Shui Tu, he really didn't die. He actually became the arena master of the deathmatch arena. The name Shui Tu seemed to have a great deterrent effect. These Dao Lords of the Yin family didn't even care that the Yin family's half-step divine lords had died in battle. They didn't care that the Yin family had been destroyed. All they did was flee in terror. How did this happen? Why did you run away? You bunch of cowards. All the men of the Yin family are cowards. The middle-aged woman let out a hysterical voice. Instead of running away, she let out a vicious roar and rushed over with red eyes. It's all because of you. If I had known that a little bitch like you would bring disaster to us, I would have poisoned you to death when I poisoned your mother. What? You? You were the one who poisoned my mother? Yin Bing's eyes widened in shock. All this time, she had been like her father. She had thought that her mother had fallen in love with someone else and had committed suicide. Only now did the middle-aged woman tell the truth in anger. Yin Bing obviously couldn't accept this truth. Her body began to tremble. My mother is innocent. My mother is innocent. Yi Fei, I beg you for one thing. You don't have to beg. I will do it. A cold light flashed in Yi Fei's eyes. Yin Bing's stepmother was too vicious. This viciousness deeply infuriated him. Moreover, she was the one who had ordered the dragon turtle to be killed. Kill. Yi Fei spat out this word coldly. An extremely beautiful middle-aged woman suddenly appeared behind the middle-aged woman. Poisonous widow. Rank second on the slaughter roll. I will send you on your way. Countless threads suddenly appeared in the air, forming a huge spider web. In an instant, it wrapped the middle-aged woman into a cocoon. The entire cocoon silently turned dark red. Madam, seeing this scene, the middle-aged man clearly couldn't accept it. What he couldn't accept even more was the destruction of the Yin family. Yin Bing quickly asked him to stop. You're also a member of the Yin family. What good will it do you to destroy the Yin family? The middle-aged man said in a pained voice. Yin Bing's expression was also filled with pain. Destroying the Yin family won't do me any good. However, what good will it do you to kill those innocent, vicious beasts? For so many years, you didn't care about me. Do you know that those vicious beasts have become my closest relatives? Now, my relatives, all of you can rest in peace. Seeing the destruction of the Yin family and the death of the middle-aged woman with her own eyes, Yin Bing finally revealed a smile of relief. Then, she knelt down. She knelt down towards the place where those abandoned vicious beasts used to live, the place where they used to be happy. She was repenting. In the face of Yin Bing's repentance, specks of light suddenly floated out from the shacks of those vicious beasts. Slowly but firmly, they floated towards Yin Bing. This is... Yi Fei looked at these strange specks of light in shock. Within these specks of light, Yi Fei actually saw the memories of many vicious beasts. High up in the sky, the iron-faced elder was also shocked by this scene. He suddenly appeared beside Yi Fei and said in a low voice, "These are very rare beast spirits. It is already a miracle for one beast spirit to appear out of 1,000,000 vicious beasts. This is because only when the vicious beasts completely trust a person and are determined to protect that person will they be able to unconsciously cultivate a beast spirit. However, this little girl can actually make these weak, vicious beasts all give birth to beast spirits. This is simply unprecedented." At this point, the iron-faced elder suddenly turned around solemnly and looked at Yin Bing. "You are called Yin Bing? This little girl is not bad. Coincidentally, my Death Battle Palace has a secret technique that no one has mastered until now. It is very suitable for you to cultivate." Yin Bing, are you willing to become my disciple and become a member of the Death Battle Palace? What? Yin Bing can actually gain the favor of the Death Battle Palace. My daughter can actually join the Death Battle Palace. The middle-aged man's body trembled. His heart was suddenly filled with regret and pain. If he had known that this would happen, he would have treated Yin Bing better. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. "I am willing, but I have a condition." Yin Bing raised her head and looked at the iron-faced elder. Then, she pointed at the middle-aged man. Her face was filled with hatred and anger. However, in the end, she sighed and said, "He is the one who gave birth to me. I can hate him and refuse to acknowledge him, but I cannot kill him. Even more so, I cannot watch him die in front of me. If possible, I would like to ask Senior to let this person go." "All right." The iron-faced elder nodded. He waved his hand, and the warriors in the death battle arena automatically opened up a path and stopped attacking the middle-aged man. "From now on, you can leave. However, you're not allowed to appear in front of Yin Bing again. Yin Bing has nothing to do with you anymore. Get lost." The middle-aged man looked at Yin Bing with a pale face. Suddenly, he covered his face and cried bitterly. Like a lost beast, he charged into the sky and escaped into the night. Behind him was the Yin clan, which was on fire, and the Yin clan's martial artists were screaming in despair. In the end, these screams were suddenly swallowed up by the night silently. On the second day, when the sun rose, the Yin family was no longer in the city of divine kings. However, the death battle arena had a new name, Bloody Rose. Chapter 2280. Family Wang makes a move. Yimo, I, Wang Xiao, swear that I will never forgive you. Dad, you have to avenge me. If not for him, I wouldn't have been beaten up so badly by Mad Dog. At Family Wang's side courtyard, when Wang Xiao's lackeys carried him home with his bones shattered, the entire Family Wang was shaken. Wang Xiao's talent was considered outstanding in the Family Wang, and he was the target of Family Wang's nurturing. But now, not only had Wang Xiao been beaten, but his balls had also been shattered in front of everyone. This wasn't just a great humiliation for Wang Xiao. It also made Family Wang a laughingstock. It was said that some people who were hostile to Family Wang had given Wang Xiao a nickname, Broken Balls King. This didn't just infuriate Wang Xiao. Family Wang was even more infuriated. At that moment, Wang Xiao's father was standing in front of Wang Xiao's bed and consoling him fiercely. Son, don't worry. Family Wang is a powerful force in the city of divine monarchs. No one will bully you, and you will be able to live a carefree life. However, we can't exact revenge on Mad Dog. Although it was Mad Dog who had broken Wang Xiao's bones and crushed his balls, Mad Dog was still a member of the deathmatch arena. No matter how powerful Family Wang was, it was like an ant compared to an elephant when compared to the deathmatch arena and the deathmatch palace behind it. This was also why Wang Xiao hated Yifei the most. If Yifei had gotten someone else to beat him up, Wang Xiao would have accepted it. At worst, he would have found an opportunity to seek revenge in the future. However, Yifei had hired Mad Dog from the deathmatch arena, so Wang Xiao could only hold back his anger. Dad, I want you to capture that demon Yifei and bring him to me in 3 days. I want to personally return the pain I suffered 100-fold. No, 1,000-fold. Wang Xiao's gaze was extremely vicious. It was unknown whether it was because of the broken egg, but Wang Xiao's voice was filled with a feminine intent. Then, Wang Xiao remembered that after his balls were crushed, one of the lackeys actually undid his belt in front of everyone to check his injuries. He even seemed to have touched it. Wang Xiao's feminine voice suddenly became sharp. Even though he knew that the lackey was worried about his injury and wanted to curry favor with him, Wang Xiao still couldn't tolerate such a thing. Men, drag that bastard Wang Sin out. Beat him to death, then throw him out to feed the dogs. Wang Xiao's vicious voice came from inside the house. Hearing this voice, the Wang family's father's expression became extremely ugly. Although he had many children, Wang Xiao was the only one who was successful. Therefore, no matter what Wang Xiao did outside, Wang family's father wouldn't blame him. Now that Wang Xiao had suffered a great humiliation, Wang family's father was even more furious. Men. Father Wang clapped his hands. Immediately, 5 Lord of Heaven-level experts with cold auras appeared around him. They were all Family Wang's trusted men as sacrifice. Within 3 days, find an opportunity to capture Yifei and bring him to my son. How dare he hurt my son? I will make him suffer a fate worse than death. The 5 men of sacrifice nodded and disappeared into the air silently. Father Wang thought about it, but he still couldn't vent his anger. After all, the conflict between Wang Xiao and Yifei had not started because of Bai Yanran, but because of Yin Bing. If it wasn't for Yin Bing, how could that country bumpkin enter Lord Pan's palace and have a conflict with my son? Men, quickly go to the Yin residence and ask them to bring Yin Bing to Family Wang immediately. Let my son deal with him personally. One of Family Wang's stewards rushed to the Yin residence. But very quickly, this steward returned with great terror. Old master, something bad has happened. The Yin clan was destroyed by the deathmatch arena last night. Father Wang was puzzled. Why would the arena of death want to destroy the Yin residence? It said that the Yin family detained Yin Bing and angered Demon Lord Yi. In a fit of rage, Demon Lord Yi requested the death arena to send out troops and directly annihilate the Yin family. Right now, The entire eastern region of the City of Gods is discussing this matter, said the steward with lingering fear. When Father Wong heard this, he almost fainted from shock. What did you say? That demon, Yi can actually ask the Arena of Death to destroy the Yin residents. Isn't he a country bumpkin? Oh no, those men a sacrifice. Father Wong's limbs suddenly turned cold. At the same time, in the Arena of Death, Yifei had just finished his cultivation when he saw Xiao Chao driving the dragon turtle around him. Every time the dragon turtle stopped, Xiao Chao would whip it, causing it to cry out in pain. It looked so pitiful that Yifei couldn't help but sympathize with it. He was extremely puzzled. The dragon turtle isn't fat now. It doesn't seem to be at the point where it has to be forced to lose weight. Besides, Xiao Chao, don't you like the dragon turtle's round appearance? Yifei walked over and hugged Xiao Chao. Only then did the dragon turtle shed a tear of sadness, as if it had been freed. It then raised a sign to tell Yifei that Xiao Chao wasn't forcing it to lose weight, but was forcing it to cultivate its beast spirit. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Chao also nodded repeatedly, expressing that Xiao Chao didn't like the dragon turtle's fat appearance anymore. Instead, he liked the dragon turtle's appearance after it cultivated its beast spirit. After all, beast spirits were shiny, and Xiao Chao didn't have much resistance toward shiny things. Yifei finally understood why the dragon turtle was so sad. After all, only vicious beasts could cultivate their beast spirit unconsciously. Furthermore, only 1 out of 1,000,000 vicious beasts could give birth to a beast spirit. For someone like the dragon turtle, who was lazy and gluttonous to eat, it would be a miracle if it could cultivate a beast spirit. Of course, knowing this was one thing. It was rare for Xiao Chao to be so obsessed with shiny things. Yifei didn't want to dispel Xiao Chao's confidence. Therefore, Yifei sympathetically gave Xiao Chao an idea. As long as the dragon turtle didn't cultivate its beast spirit, it wouldn't be allowed to eat magnetite. The dragon turtle rolled its eyes the moment it heard this idea. It turned around and ran away on the spot. It even ran towards Yin Bing's room. After a few days of recuperation, Yin Bing's injuries were no longer a problem. Today was also the day she would leave the City of Divine Kings and head to the Death Battle Palace to cultivate. When she saw the dragon turtle running out in a hurry, Yin Bing's eyes immediately turned red. She hugged the dragon turtle and said, "Little turtle, I'm going to the Death Battle Palace. Why don't you come with me?" The dragon turtle's eyelids twitched. It looked at Yin Bing and then looked at Yifei, who was walking behind it. Suddenly, the dragon turtle stuck out its tongue and licked Yin Bing's face. Then, it turned around and quickly returned to Yifei's side. It even rubbed against Yifei's trouser leg in a fawning manner. With a ripping sound, Yifei's trouser leg was torn and a piece of white flesh was exposed. Yifei and Xiao Chao's faces darkened at the same time. However, Yin Bing burst out laughing. Then, she looked at Yifei with fiery eyes and suddenly ran towards Yifei. Yifei sighed helplessly. Parting was always sad. Yin Bing was at her weakest now. If she really wanted to hug Yifei, Yifei really couldn't find a reason to reject her. Therefore, Yifei decided to sacrifice himself and let Yin Bing hug him. However, Yin Bing avoided him and hugged the dragon turtle again. She even kissed the dragon turtle's head fiercely. "Little turtle, wait for me. I will definitely come back. Yifei, take care." Chapter 2281. By Shizhong. Are you sure you don't want to stay in the deathmatch arena? I think Yin Bing likes you a lot. Maybe something will happen if you stay. The iron-faced old man looked at Yifei with an encouraging gaze. He wanted to persuade Yifei to stay. However, when he heard such persuasion, other than being speechless, Yifei felt that the head elder was being disrespectful. After all, he still wanted to obtain the cultivation technique for the golden body of despair. Naturally, he wouldn't choose to stay in the deathmatch arena. "Arena Master, I suddenly remembered that I have something to do at Lord Pan Hall. I'll take my leave first." With that, Yifei turned and left. This time, the iron-masked elder didn't ask him to stay. However, before Yifei left, he sent a voice transmission. "Yin Bing is my disciple. Since you're her friend, you can call me Shwetu in private. Shwetu? Only in private? I can't call you that in public? Yi Fei felt that the name Shwetu wasn't just a code name for the elder. It was more like a taboo. It was also this taboo that made many Dao lords of the Yin family break down in fear. However, Yi Fei didn't ask any more questions. After leaving the deathmatch arena, he rushed into the sky, intending to return to Lord Pan Hall. At the same time that Yi Fei left, 4 black-robed Lord of Heaven walked out silently from a shadow outside the deathmatch arena. Is he Yi Fei? Master has ordered us to capture him. If he resists, we can kill him. Then what are you waiting for? Attack! These black-robed heaven monarchs followed Yi Fei silently. At this time, it was another night. Their clothes gave him a good cover. However, these heavenly monarchs did not manage to catch up to Yi Fei. That was because in the instant that they soared into the sky, a giant, profound strength palm suddenly appeared in the sky. That palm quickly turned into a bloody hand and gently patted the night sky. A few void vortexes appeared in the night sky without making a sound. Within the vortex were 5 black-clothed corpses of the Lord of Heaven, blooming like flowers of blood. This is all that this old man can help you with. Next, if you join the life and death arena, you can still avoid the calamity. If you can't, then you can only pray for yourself. In the night sky, the iron-masked old man's scarlet cape fluttered in the wind. Yi Fei seemed to feel something and turned his head. He solemnly cupped his hands toward the iron-masked old man. Senior, thank you. He didn't call out Shwetu's title. This was because Xiao Chao had already discovered that these 5 black-robed Lord of Heaven were not the only ones lying in ambush. There was also another Dao Lord with a powerful aura. This was also the reason why Shwetu had appeared. With him around, even the Dao Lord wouldn't dare to show himself, much less stop Yi Fei from leaving. Shwetu nodded. When Yi Fei was far away and even the Dao Lord couldn't catch up to him, he inadvertently glanced at the dark corner and returned to the life and death arena. A pale figure appeared in the dark corner, panting heavily. This person was none other than Wang Xiu's father, Wang Pu. Wang Pu had originally wanted to stop the suicide squad he had sent out, but in the end, he witnessed the death of the suicide squad with his own eyes. He was so frightened that he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. He had completely given up on using assassination methods to deal with Yi Fei. The arena master of the life and death arena didn't kill me. He only killed a few suicide squad. This proves that he still has some scruples about family Wang. As for Yi Fei, he has to think long and hard before he can avenge my son. Wang Pu snorted coldly. Although he didn't understand how Yi Fei could get help from the life and death arena, when he thought about how Wang Xiu had been hurt, family Wang still wouldn't let Yi Fei off. It was only a matter of time. Without even looking at the 5 dead subordinates, Wang Pu silently disappeared into the darkness. At the same time, Yi Fei rushed back to Lord Pan's palace as fast as he could. He saw a white figure standing outside Lord Pan's palace. Bai Yanran, why are you here? Yi Fei landed and looked at Bai Yanran strangely. However, he saw Bai Yanran's nervous expression. Yi Fei, tell me honestly, are you from Qingzhou? Are you Rizu's subordinate? Yi Fei's expression changed. Although he knew that his identity couldn't be hidden, he didn't expect Lord Pan's palace to find out so quickly. He couldn't deny it and could only nod. That's right. I'm from Qingzhou, but I'm not Rizu's subordinate. Bai Yanran finally heaved a sigh of relief. He kindly reminded him. That's good. Ancestor Lord Pan hates Rizu very much. Remember, no matter how the ancestor interrogates you, you have to clarify your relationship with Rizu. Only then can you stay in Lord Pan's palace and cultivate. As he spoke, Bai Yanran once again led Yi Fei into Lord Pan's palace. However, this time, Yi Fei clearly felt the enmity from the Lord Pan's palace's Dao Lord. He smiled bitterly to himself. He understood that although Lord Pan's palace and Rizu both came from the heavenly palace of despair, their relationship was very bad. Bai Yanran, thank you. Yi Fei thanked him sincerely. He knew that Bai Yanran must have put in a lot of effort for him to still be able to stay in Lord Pan's palace. Bai Yanran smiled faintly. He even winked at Yi Fei. We're friends, aren't we? Besides, you did a good job with the Yin family. Clearly, Bai Yinran also knew that Yi Fei definitely had something to do with the Yin family's destruction. After speaking, he winked at Yi Fei again. Both of them smiled knowingly. At this moment, a handsome young man walked out of Lord Pan's palace. He smiled calmly and said, Yinran, what are you so happy about? Why don't you share it with me? Bai Yinran blushed. Clearly, she didn't expect that her brother would see her joking with Yi Fei. After all, Bai Yinran usually paid more attention to his image in front of outsiders. This is? Yi Fei also sized up the young man in front of him curiously. He realized that this person was already a Dao Lord. He gave him a strong sense of pressure. This is my brother, Bai Shizhong. Brother, this is Yi Fei. I've been ordered to bring him to see the ancestor. Bai Yinran introduced them to each other. So it's senior brother Bai. Yi Fei greeted him politely. Bai Shizhong smiled slightly. You're Yi Fei. The ancestor has been waiting for you for a long time. Come with me. Yinran, go to the study first. Father has something to say to you. Why don't I go with Yi Fei to see the ancestor first? Bai Yinran was a little hesitant. Bai Shizhong shook his head calmly. That won't do. Father is looking for you urgently. As for Brother Yi, I'll take good care of him on your behalf. Brother Yi, please. With that, Bai Shizhong led the way in front. He didn't give Yi Fei any chance to refuse. Yi Fei had no choice but to follow Bai Shizhong and continue walking into the depths of Lord Pan's palace. However, as they walked, Yi Fei clearly sensed that something was wrong. Bai Shizhong didn't bring him to the ancestor of Lord Pan's residence. Instead, they arrived at a martial arts arena. Senior brother Bai, what are you? Yi Fei stopped in his tracks. He secretly became vigilant. Brother Yi, I'm very grateful to you for what you did to protect my sister's reputation in the deathmatch arena. However, private matters are private and public matters are public. You can see the ancestor if you want, but there must be a condition. Chapter 2282. Trap Yi Fei immediately understood why Bai Shizhong had sent Bai Yinran away and brought him here. The so-called condition is to defeat you. Defeat me? The smile on Bai Shizhong's face disappeared. Then, he shook his head with a strange expression and said, You're really confident. However, with the golden body of despair, those ordinary heavenly monarchs and Dao monarchs of the Qing prefecture are no match for you. No wonder you're so confident. Unfortunately, this isn't Qingzhou, but the Divine Land. This is Lord Pan's palace. Yi Fei, do you want to come up on your own, or do you want me to invite you up? Boom! A terrifying aura erupted from Bai Shizhong's feet and triggered the entire arena. Countless divine runes appeared out of thin air and formed a special teleportation light. It was about to teleport Yi Fei directly to the arena. Yi Fei was shocked to discover that Bai Shizhong was not only a very powerful Lord of Dao, but also a very powerful Grandmaster of spiritual augmentation. What was more terrifying was that Bai Shizhong had attached to the entire arena. When Yi Fei stepped into the arena, it was as if he had stepped into Bai Shizhong's world. Xiao Chao was also shocked by the strange divine runes. When he saw that Yi Fei was bound by the divine runes, Xiao Chao immediately waved his small hand and sent out a 5-colored spiritual wind. It instantly erased the divine runes binding Yi Fei. This scene caused Bai Shizhong's countenance to tremble violently. One had to know that he was a 7th-level spirit augmentation ancestor. Even so, he was only able to inscribe divine imprints and was unable to erase them. In the end, Yi Fei didn't even need to lift a finger. All he did was release a gust of wind, and it actually destroyed the show of strength he had painstakingly prepared. Bai Shizhong's body suddenly erupted with an even stronger battle intent. You're not bad. It seems that I have to use my full strength. Lord Pan stands up 1,000 peaks return. Boom! Bai Shizhong didn't move an inch, but following the activation of his profound energy, the entire ground actually continued to rotate. Following this rotation, the ground beneath Yi Fei's feet actually uncontrollably flew towards the arena where Bai Shizhong was. Although he did not know what was on the stage, Yi Fei understood that Bai Shizhong was so anxious for him to go up. It was probably not as simple as a martial arts competition. Freeze! Yi Fei suddenly roared. With a flip of his hand, the dark steel heavy sword appeared in his hand. At the same time, he fiercely smashed the ground with all his might. Under the suppression of Yi Fei's terrifying divine power, the rotating ground came to a standstill. But right at this moment, Bai Shizhong's fists suddenly condensed into two mountains. With a loud bang, they came crashing down on Yi Fei. Shatter! Without another word, Yi Fei stabbed the heavy sword into the ground and began to spin like a hurricane. The whistling sword light caused the space to tremble and the ground to shake. The heavy sword light collided with Bai Shizhong's profound energy mountains. But this time, Yi Fei was unable to shatter the two mountains, because Bai Shizhong's proud figure suddenly appeared on the peak of the mountain. Yi Fei, you're not bad. No wonder Yanran said that you have the potential to break into the Earth Carnage role. But unfortunately, you only have the potential to break into it. As for me, I'm already an expert on the Earth Carnage role. With the gap between us, you're destined to be no match for me. Boom! An extremely heavy iron fist came crashing down. It directly landed on the dark steel heavy sword's blade, causing the sound of metal twisting to resound. What was even more terrifying was Bai Shizhong's powerful divine power. This divine power directly formed a remarkable ability and came crashing down on Yi Fei fiercely. Golden body of loss. Power of war demon. Yi Fei's expression was ice cold. He did not retreat. Instead, he gathered all of his strength. Profound energy and divine power exploded with a resplendent purplish gold light to resist Bai Shizhong's attack. At the same time, Yi Fei's heavy sword whizzed up. Like a swimming fish, it broke through the ice and pierced towards Bai Shizhong's body from an impossible angle. However, Bai Shizhong laughed out loud. His body also exploded with a resplendent purplish gold light. As a branch of the heavenly palace of despair, how could he not cultivate the golden body of despair? Even though this was only the Lord of Heaven's golden body, it was coincidentally able to resist Yi Fei's Lord of Heaven's heavy sword. Two loud booms were heard. Yi Fei's sword and Bai Shizhong's fist collided with each other's bodies at the same time. Then there was a shocking boom. Yi Fei's sword did not shatter Yi Fei's golden body of the Lord of Heaven in the end. However, Bai Shizhong's fist had already shattered Bai Shizhong's golden body of loss. This made Yi Fei even more depressed. In the past, he had always relied on his golden body to bully others. Now, he finally had a taste of being crushed by his golden body. However, Yi Fei was not discouraged. Just as his golden body was shattered and his body was sent flying, a fierce, bloody battle intent exploded from his body. At the same time, a pair of huge azure dragon wings appeared on his back. It's useless. We already know what you're capable of. However, even if your defense and speed are unparalleled, the absolute difference in cultivation level and bloodline means that you're destined to be no match for me. Bai Shizhong's body also exploded with a terrifying, remarkable ability. That was actually the heavy mountain intent. At the same time, a layer of special blood flames appeared on Bai Shizhong's forehead and condensed into an even more terrifying gravity suppression. Mountain river crumbles with a thought. Boom! It was as if mountains and rivers were being shattered, as if heaven and earth were being overturned. Bai Shizhong's punch actually caused a terrifying gravitational pressure to form around him. Under this pressure, Yi Fei couldn't even move a finger, let alone fly. It was incomparably difficult. This was the suppression of cultivation level and bloodline. Earth Carnage Proclamation experts are indeed powerful. However, since you guys are so strong, why didn't you go to the death arena? Yi Fei was very puzzled. Seeing Yi Fei's question, Bai Shizhong was speechless. If you enter the Earth Carnage Proclamation and still go to the death arena, then wouldn't the death arena palace go bankrupt? Of course, that time in the storm is an exception. I don't have the time to talk too much with you. Now, just obediently squat in the prison. At this time, Yi Fei just happened to be blasted onto the arena. Bai Shizhong did not say anything else, and just snapped his fingers with a snap. Yifei discovered very gloomily that this arena was indeed a trap. There were actually divine runes everywhere on it, and even formed a special divine rune shackle, binding him up. At the same time that his cultivation was shackled, a white light already flashed before his eyes. Yifei discovered that he was no longer on the arena, but had entered an inexplicable space. This space was very much like the Bloodline Treasure Pagoda space, but the pressure inside was even stronger and even more terrifying. At the same time, Bai Shizhong's gloating voice also came from the sky above his head. From now on, you just squat inside obediently. When the ancestor has calmed down, then we'll let you out. Yifei's face darkened and hurriedly asked, then what if Pan Wang doesn't calm down? Then you'll be locked up inside. All right, this is your meal today. In the void, a piece of mantu suddenly flew in. It was even rancid. Chapter 2283. 9 seals in the next few days. Bai Shizhong would throw in a rotten steamed bun every day. Yifei naturally wouldn't eat the steamed bun and gave it all to the dragon turtle. The dragon turtle naturally wouldn't eat it either. It just took out a small wooden token and marked it down on Bai Shizhong's face. During this time, Pan Wang had no intention of seeing him. This made Yifei even more depressed. Pan Wang had the patience to wait, but he didn't have the patience to waste time. I'll wait for another 7 days. If Pan Wang still refuses to see me or let me go, then I'll have to use my final trump card. After all, the Arena of Death had agreed to 3 conditions. His first condition was to let Mad Dog teach Wang Xiu a lesson. His second condition was to let the Arena of Death destroy the Yin family and save Yinbing. However, Yifei really couldn't bear to use the third condition to let the Arena of Death save him. After all, if he asked the Arena of Death to help him, he would completely fall out with Pan Wang Hall. Then, it would be even more impossible for him to obtain the cultivation technique of the divine Lord Golden Body of Despair. Moreover, if I use the last condition, I won't have anything to do with the Arena of Death in the future. Without the Arena of Death as a backer, the family Wang will definitely attack me first. Yifei was even more conflicted when he thought of this. It just so happened that it was time for food to be delivered again. Unexpectedly, it wasn't rotten steamed bun that was thrown in this time, but an exquisite food box. Yifei, are you okay in there? It was actually Bai Yinran's voice outside. Yifei was shocked. Compared to Bai Yinran's stubbornness, the simple Bai Yinran was undoubtedly easier to talk to. Bai Yinran, can you let me out? Yifei asked softly. I'm afraid not. Locking you up was Patriarch Pan Wang's idea. Furthermore, he only locked you up and didn't hurt you. He's already being lenient. If I let you out, he might not listen to me even if I speak up for you in a fit of rage, Bai Yinran said apologetically. Bai Yinran said apologetically. But don't worry, I'll bring you food every day. Tell me what you want to eat, and I can cook it for you. Bai Yinran's face turned even redder when she said this. She obviously needed a lot of courage. After all, it was her first time doing something like cooking for someone else. Unfortunately, Yifei couldn't see this scene from the pagoda. But Bai Yinran's cooking. Bai Yinran's cooking. Since he couldn't get out for the time, he could only Bai Yinran, Bai Yinran, Bai Yinran, Bai, and Nai Dragon. And it's Nai translations in Dragons Nai Dragon translation Dragon Lu Bai. Bai Wang's Bai. Of course, S Bai. Wang. The dragon turtle simply stuck its head out and leaned against the wall of the pagoda to inquire. Bai Yinran shook his head. I'm not too sure about that either, but my brother overheard the elder ancestor throwing a tantrum. He said that not only was Rizu a coward, but he was also trying to steal someone else's love. That's why the elder ancestor was furious every time Rizu was mentioned. Oh no, it was one thing to be greedy for life and afraid of death, but snatching someone's love was a serious problem. After hearing Bai Yinran's explanation, Yifei finally understood why Rizu had been so vague when recommending him to the Lord Pan Palace. It was obvious that he had a guilty conscience and felt guilty. Most importantly, Rizu wasn't even human. He was just a lightning beast in human form. Yet he could still snatch away his beloved. It was no wonder that Pan Wang couldn't take this lying down. The tragedy was that Pan Wang could not take this lying down and was clearly venting his anger on Yifei. Yifei immediately despaired. He knew that it was almost impossible to make Pan Wang calm down. Hoping for Rizu to save him was even more impossible. It seems that I still have to rely on myself at this critical moment, Yifei thought to himself. Bai Yanran didn't dare to say much to Yifei. She hurriedly said a few words and left. Not long after Bai Yanran left, Bai Yanran threw in a piece of rotten mantou on time. It was obvious that he didn't notice what had happened to Bai Yanran. Yifei heaved a sigh of relief and threw the mantou to the dragon turtle out of habit. The dragon turtle also habitually dug a hole and threw the mantou in. It even peed on it, indicating that it would rather die than eat food given to it. Seeing the dragon turtle's actions, Yifei's eyes suddenly lit up. Blackie, continue digging. See if you can dig out. The dragon turtle's eyes also lit up. It immediately waved its dragon claws and dug with all its might. Soon, the dragon turtle dug out a huge hole in the pagoda. However, as it dug, it suddenly started sweating profusely. Yifei also clearly felt that the temperature of the entire space was rapidly rising. Yifei hurriedly used his divine perception to probe the hole dug by the dragon turtle. He saw that there was actually an underground fire eye under the pagoda. And what came out of the fire eye wasn't flames, but terrifying magma. The dragon turtle subconsciously reached out a black ladle, intending to scoop up some magma to see if it could be eaten. However, before it even touched the magma, a small spark actually burned a hole in the black ladle. The dragon turtle cried out in pain. Yifei also grunted. This magma could not only burn through a turtle's shell, but it was also terrifying to the point that it could even burn one's divine perception. If he and the dragon turtle planned to escape from here, they would probably be burned to ashes. Since digging underground won't work, it seems like we can only start from the pagoda itself. Yifei recalled that not long ago, Xiao Chao had erased the divine pattern. He had unintentionally destroyed the bloodline pagoda. Although he didn't know what grade the bloodline pagoda was, it wasn't Yifei's style to be trapped here and do nothing. He immediately did as he thought. Seeing that the dragon turtle wasn't working, Yifei immediately said to Xiao Chao, "Xiao Chao, quickly come out and work." Squeak, squeak. Xiao Chao expressed that he didn't want to. He had just eaten candied haws, so Xiao Chao wanted to sleep now. Yifei's face immediately darkened. He could only coax impatiently, "Xiao Chao, be good. If you don't help us, we really won't be able to get out. If we can't get out, then we won't be able to eat anything after we finish eating the magnetite and candied haws." Hearing that the problem was so serious, Xiao Chao's sleepiness immediately disappeared. He even rushed out of the beast mark space and looked at the pagoda from top to bottom, left to right. Sometimes, Xiao Chao even squatted on the ground and started writing and drawing. Yifei and the dragon turtle looked over curiously. At first, he saw that Xiao Chao was drawing divine patterns, but as Xiao Chao drew more and more, Yifei's expression gradually became serious. This was because he realized that Xiao Chao wasn't drawing divine patterns, but the structure of the pagoda. This pagoda was actually made up of countless divine runes that were connected together. It was complex and exquisite. Countless divine runes were connected together to form a pagoda. The entire pagoda had a total of 9 floors, and each level was like a 9-layered seal, firmly trapping the person who entered the pagoda. This pagoda clearly didn't look like something that could trap a mere Lord of Heaven. Yifei felt that this pagoda could even trap a Lord God or Rinzu. Chapter 2284. Geocentric Fiery Eye by Yanran was filled with shock. She had only delivered food to Yifei twice, which meant that Yifei had only been imprisoned for 2 days, and he had already discovered the secret of the Bloodline Pagoda. However, she did not hide it. After all, it was her decision to bring Yifei to see Pan Wang, and this decision had put Yifei in a difficult situation. Bai Yanran was actually quite apologetic. She explained seriously, "That's right. The place where you were imprisoned is actually the real bloodline pagoda. The bloodline pagoda can not only help people with bloodline spiritual attachment and raise the level of their bloodline, but it can also trap people. 9 bloodlines, 9 seals. In other words, as long as one's bloodline cannot break through the limit of the 9th level, even Divine Lord Rinzu would find it difficult to get out. Yifei looked at the complex pattern of divine veins drawn by Xiao Chao on the ground, and a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. It could trap people in reverse. Could it be that the bloodline pagoda's divine veins do not have 2 systems, but only one? Using the front side of the divine veins to raise one's bloodline, and using the back side to suppress one's bloodline and trap a strong enemy? Outside the bloodline pagoda, Bai Yinran was shocked. She only knew this secret because her elders had told her about it, but Yifei had comprehended the bloodline pagoda's greatest secret with just a few words. Could this guy actually be a spiritual attachment genius? Otherwise, how could he easily see through such a secret? However, if he's a genius, then why is the spiritual wind he releases so ugly? Could it be that he's deliberately faking it? Bai Yinran felt that she was starting to panic again, so much so that she even forgot to bid farewell to Yifei. She turned around and left, so she did not notice that a figure was hiding in the distance, watching her. This figure was naturally Bai Yinran. Bai Yinran's little tricks could not escape his eyes. When he saw that Yifei was trapped in the bloodline pagoda and still dared to approach his sister, Bai Shirshi's mood naturally became extremely bad. Throwing in a piece of rotten mantu was not enough, so Bai Shizhong added some force. Boom! The steamed bun whistled through the air as it fell into the pagoda. Then it hit the ground hard and bounced back. The commotion caused Yifei, who was deep in thought, to wake up abruptly. Yifei, don't try anything funny in there. Even if you ask my sister, it's useless. Unless you can reverse the divine imprints inside, you'll be trapped in there for the rest of your life and eat your rotten mantus, Bai Shizhong warned fiercely. But when he heard this, Yifei's eyes lit up. Reversing the divine runes? In that case, Pan Wang's method of controlling the bloodline treasure pagoda was to reverse the divine runes. Why didn't I think of it? The front side of the divine runes was used to increase one's bloodline, while the back side was used to suppress one's bloodline. If I can reverse the divine runes, then not only will this bloodline treasure pagoda not be able to trap me, I can even use this bloodline treasure pagoda to try and break my bloodline seal. This thought appeared in his mind. Yifei could no longer hold back. He habitually gave the rotten mantus to the dragon turtle and left the delicious candied haws to Xiao Chao. Yifei tempted him excitedly. Xiao Chao, try and see if you can reverse the divine runes on this floor. If you succeed, I will give you all the dark stones I have. Roar! Roar! Hearing that he could eat the dark stones as he pleased, the dragon turtle was clearly excited. Xiao Chao's eyes were even bigger. Clearly, he could not resist such temptation. Then, Xiao Chao was full of energy and started running around this floor. The dragon turtle was not to be outdone. It followed behind him like a lackey and even took out a fan to fan the flames, showing that it was also doing its best. Yifei was speechless. He could only let the dragon turtle run around behind Xiao Chao. Xiao Chao was indeed a powerful descendant of the spirit immortal tribe. Reversing divine runes was something that was impossible for most people. But to Xiao Chao, it was a very simple matter. Xiao Chao only needed to erase the divine runes he discovered in this space, and then inscribe a brand new one with the opposite side. He would attach his spirit to the original space, and the rules of that space would instantly change. And as Xiao Chao reversed more and more divine runes, the space where Xiao Chao was reversing became more and more. The changes in the rules of the space where Yifei was were also becoming more and more obvious. When the last hidden divine rune was found by Xiao Chao and was successfully reversed, boom! The rules of this space had already undergone a fundamental change. Originally, it was suppressing the bloodline. Suddenly, it was stimulating the bloodline. Not only that, this kind of stimulation wasn't purely through pressure. Because as the laws of divine inscriptions changed, The originally hidden underground magma suddenly emitted a powerful energy, forming a unique bloodline pressure that pressed down on Yi Fei's body like a mountain. This pressure not only made Yi Fei roar in anger, but the dragon turtle beside him also roared in anger. The dragon turtle had dragon blood, so it also felt the pressure from the bloodline. Only Xiao Qiao was able to withstand this terrifying pressure. Perhaps it was because the Spirit Immortal tribe's bloodline was too powerful, or because Xiao Qiao's rainbow divine light was too mysterious. Seeing that Yi Fei was still able to hold on, Xiao Qiao immediately grabbed the dragon turtle's tail and ran to a higher level of the bloodline pagoda to continue reversing the divine runes. Yi Fei also activated his golden body of laws and used brute force to withstand the pressure. He followed Xiao Qiao to a higher level. Originally, the higher levels had powerful seals, but with Xiao Qiao's strange reversal of the divine runes, these seals could not stop Yi Fei at all. Very quickly, he broke through the first layer's pressure and entered the second layer. The second layer's pressure was clearly even more terrifying than the first layer's, especially after Little Grass used the reverse divine rune. The terrifying energy from the Earth Core Fiery I was constantly released through the divine rune. Yi Fei felt as if all the blood in his body was burning. The dragon turtle was even more comfortable. Most dragon turtles were water elemental rulers of the ocean, but this dragon turtle was a little strange. It was actually fire elemental. The heat released by the Earth Core Fiery Eye through the divine runes not only did not make the dragon turtle feel uncomfortable, but also made the dragon turtle's dragon blood even purer. Yi Fei also gained some understanding. It seems like the bloodline spirit attachment uses the bloodline pagoda and the divine runes in the pagoda to release the power of the Earth Core Fiery Eye in a regular manner. This can stimulate and increase the grade of a martialist bloodline. This feeling was actually the same as when Yi Fei used the ancient emperor's origin to increase his bloodline in the ancient heavenly lake land of Supreme Emperor Heaven. It was just that the bloodline spirit attachment was more complicated and time-consuming. However, this is still an important way for ordinary martialists to increase their bloodline. After all, only a small number of people could enter the ancient heavenly lake land. Most martialists could not even think of entering Supreme Emperor Heaven. Therefore, using the bloodline spirit attachment of the Earth Core Fiery, I was the choice of many martialists who wanted to increase their bloodline. I just don't know if this bloodline pagoda can use the Earth Core Fiery Eye to break the bloodline seal in my body. Chapter 2285. Dragon Turtle Metamorphosis. This was different from the Bloodline Treasure Pagoda Yi Fei had entered for the first time. That Bloodline Treasure Pagoda was different. Every time he broke through a level, the pressure released by the divine inscriptions would increase tenfold. The increase in power was relatively balanced, but it was clear that this wasn't the real Bloodline Treasure Pagoda. The pressure of the real Bloodline Pagoda would increase with every breakthrough. For example, when Yi Fei was on the first level, the pressure released by the Bloodline Pagoda through the Earth Core Fiery Eye was 10 times stronger. When Yi Fei reached the second level, the pressure had increased to 20 times. When Yi Fei stepped into the third level, the pressure of the entire Bloodline Treasure Pagoda had already broken through 30 times. It was as if 3 huge mountains were pressing down on Yi Fei's bloodline. However, Yi Fei's bloodline seal was too tough. Even 30 times the pressure wasn't enough to cause the divine inscriptions sealing him to show any signs of crumbling. On the other hand, the dragon turtle's relaxed expression turned serious after entering the third level. The dragon turtle stopped fooling around and hurriedly released layers of demonic fire to protect itself. It also resisted the pressure of the bloodline that was everywhere. However, the pressure of the third level was clearly not the dragon turtle's limit. The dragon turtle took the lead and walked towards the fourth level of the pagoda. This surprised Yi Fei. However, what surprised him the most was the speed at which Xiao Qiao reversed the divine runes. Xiao Qiao took half a day to break through the first level. Second level, 20 hours. Third level, 10 hours. Xiao Qiao only took 6 hours to break through the 4th level. What made Yi Fei and the dragon turtle even more speechless was that Xiao Qiao seemed to treat reversing the divine runes as a very fun game. As she erased and scribbled, Xiao Qiao immediately felt very proud. Xiao Qiao proudly puffed out her chest. Unfortunately, this was clearly not the time to ask for a hug. Xiao Qiao could only wave her hand and ask Yi Fei and the dragon turtle to follow her, because Xiao Qiao was going to reverse the divine runes on the 5th level of the pagoda. After gesturing, Xiao Qiao's figure skipped forward. Her 2 ponytails swayed in the wind. Yi Fei and the dragon turtle were speechless and envious. If Pan Wang or other spirit augmentation grandmasters saw Xiao Qiao reverse the divine runes so easily, they would be scared to death. After all, Xiao Qiao was a descendant of the spirit immortal race. The spirit immortal race was best at spirit augmentation and divine runes. To other spirit augmentation grandmasters, reversing divine runes was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. However, to Xiao Qiao, reversing divine runes was like playing a game. She could do it with a little time. Yi Fei knew that this was the advantage of a race. For example, the trance in the heavenly abode world had the advantage of divine power and regenerative abilities. They were very terrifying and were almost unkillable. There was also the heavenly Tao tree. It was born as a part of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, the advantage of the heavenly Tao tree was that it could ignore the rules of heaven and earth and freely travel between the land and heaven. Of course, other than the heavenly Tao tree and the trance, there were many other races in the heaven realm that had all kinds of abilities. However, these races were very mysterious, and it was very difficult for ordinary people to meet them. However, while other races have their own advantages, we humans also have our own advantages. That is, we have a strong learning ability and an endless ability to create. This is also a human's advantage. Yi Fei thought as he walked into the 5th level. Then, he entered the bloodline space on the 6th level. During this time, the dragon turtle followed behind him. However, the 60-fold bloodline pressure still caused the dragon turtle to groan in pain. Blackie, if you can't endure it, you can stop. Yi Fei couldn't bear to see it and couldn't help but say, "Roar, roar." However, the dragon turtle shook its head firmly. Even though it was very painful under the pressure, the dragon turtle still worked hard to crawl forward. Obviously, the dragon turtle also knew that this was a rare opportunity. At this moment, it was naturally thinking of ways to climb to the 7th level. Seeing how hard the dragon turtle was working, Yi Fei naturally couldn't slack off. Compared to the dragon turtle, Yi Fei would only be crazier. When he realized that the bloodline pressure on the 6th level was still unable to break the bloodline seal in his body, Yi Fei made up his mind and suddenly removed his golden body of laws. Since the pressure isn't enough, I'll create more pressure. If 60 times isn't enough, I'll use 70 times. I don't believe that I can't break this damn seal. Dong! Yi Fei's footsteps became even heavier. He was like an ant carrying a huge mountain on its back as it struggled to move forward. Stimulated by Yi Fei's actions, the exhausted dragon turtle, who was about to collapse, suddenly gained strength from an unknown source. Its heavy body actually struggled to roll on the ground. Since it couldn't crawl, it had to roll. Even if it had to roll, it had to roll to the bloodline space on the 7th level. With this determination, the dragon turtle followed Yi Fei bit by bit and rolled into the 7th level with great difficulty. The pressure here was even more terrifying. It was 70 times the spatial pressure. It was like a vast ocean that violently and heavily pressed down on the dragon turtle. Scram! Yi Fei suddenly shouted angrily. It was rare to see the dragon turtle work hard, so how could he disappoint it? He directly used his body to resist the pressure in front of the dragon turtle. Blackie, follow me. Let's charge forward. Dong, dong, dong. Yi Fei strode forward. At this moment, he was so small but so tall. The layers of pressure pressed down on Yi Fei until his body was deformed. His chest caved in and his bones were distorted. Even his face became round and flat. However, Yi Fei still didn't retreat. With Yi Fei sharing the burden, the dragon turtle also didn't retreat. Instead, it gritted its teeth and followed behind Yi Fei, rolling with great difficulty. 1 step, 10 steps, 100 steps. Crack, crack. The dragon turtle's shell suddenly trembled and countless cracks appeared on it. However, the dragon turtle didn't stop. It only gritted its teeth and followed behind Yi Fei. At the same time, the strong pressure pressed the dragon turtle's body until it was as flat as a piece of paper. Countless amounts of blood were forced out of its body and burned like a raging fire. However, the dragon turtle still didn't retreat. It continued to follow closely behind Yi Fei all the way to the entrance of the 8th level. The dragon turtle hesitated for a moment before stopping abruptly in the face of the pressure that was as majestic as heaven and earth. The moment the dragon turtle stopped, countless sacred runes suddenly appeared in the space of the 7th level. They released a strange energy that surged into the dragon turtle's body. The dragon turtle was so excited that it roared. The demon blood and dragon blood in its body fused together and gradually turned into a demon dragon mark that merged into the dragon turtle's body. Grade 7 dragon blood? Blackie actually fused the demon blood and dragon blood together and raised its bloodline to grade 7 demon dragon blood. Yi Fei was inwardly astonished. Such a bloodline was already comparable to those pure-blooded true dragons. Obviously, with the dragon turtle's efforts, the dragon turtle had completely transformed from the ordinary vicious beasts into an extraordinary demon dragon. At this moment, Yi Fei's emotions were thoroughly stirred up. Even the dragon turtle can surpass its limit and raise its bloodline to grade 7. Then, where's my limit? Chapter 2286. Sword of Destruction. When he stepped into the 8th level, Yi Fei was no longer facing the pressure of the ocean. Instead, it was the pressure of the heavens and the earth. It was as if the heavens and the earth were pressing down on Yi Fei. Dong, dong, dong. Suddenly, the sound of war drums could be heard from Yi Fei's body. His boiling blood was beating like a war drum. His tendons and bones were constantly stretched and deformed under the pressure of the heavens and the earth. Yi Fei even suspected that if he continued to advance, his body would be crushed into pieces by the power of the heavens and the earth. However, when he thought about the dragon turtle's perseverance and the bloodline in his body that he couldn't control, Yi Fei's gaze suddenly became resolute. If I want to surpass the geniuses of the middle ground, if I want to let my friends and family have a better foothold in the heaven realm, I have to become stronger. No matter what, the bloodline in my body has to be awakened. Yi Fei's footsteps became heavy. He was like an ant that carried the heavens and the earth on his back as he continued to advance. During this process, the pressure of the 8th level caused Yi Fei's sky palace to be squeezed. At the same time, his fate wheel and his sky bridge shook and swayed at the same time, as if they were about to collapse. The most painful one was Yi Fei's soul. The pressure of the heavens and the earth not only caused his body pain, but also caused his soul to feel as if it was about to be torn apart. This kind of pain wasn't something that an ordinary person could endure. Seeing that Yi Fei seemed to be unable to withstand the pressure of the heavens and the earth, Xiao Qiao couldn't bear it anymore. He planned to secretly stop the divine inscriptions. Xiao Qiao, don't stop. Continue reversing the divine inscriptions. Yi Fei looked at Xiao Qiao with a resolute gaze and shook his head. This bloodline pagoda might be the best chance to break the seal in his body. If he missed it, Yi Fei really didn't know if he would have a second chance like this. Therefore, he had to grasp this opportunity, even if he had to pay a painful price. Yi Fei continued forward, carrying this world on his back. He was like an ascetic monk, like a foolish old man moving mountains. Pain was everywhere. The tearing pain of his soul almost turned from an illusion to reality. But Yi Fei seemed to feel nothing. His eyes were red as he resolutely walked forward step by step. And as Yi Fei continued onward, the rumbling of the battle drums in his body suddenly transformed into the divine music of heaven and earth. In the void, there seemed to be an invisible river boiling and surging. If one listened carefully, they would realize that this wasn't the sound of a river, but rather the sound of Yi Fei's bloodline. After all, the pressure on the 8th level was 80 times greater than the pressure on the 7th level. This kind of pressure was enough to crush a mountain into dust. No matter how strong Yi Fei's bloodline seal was, it still underwent certain changes under the pressure of heaven and earth. The first change occurred in Yi Fei's mind. In his mind, there was suddenly an intermittent stream of information. Yi Fei, who had once stimulated a divine tribulation, naturally understood that this information was actually his natural mystique. Different bloodlines had different bloodline mystiques. As a martial artist's bloodline strengthened, these mystiques would constantly become stronger. At this moment, under the terrifying pressure of the 8th level, Yi Fei's bloodline seal was finally unable to withstand it. He had no choice but to reveal a trace of his natural mystique. And when he sensed this information, Yi Fei's pained mood became uplifted. He carried the world on his back as he advanced. What he was afraid of was not pain. What he was afraid of was not being able to break the seal in his body. Fortunately, Yi Fei had already tempered a will that was more indestructible than steel. It was also this will that supported and encouraged him. Finally, when he stepped into the middle of the 8th level, Yi Fei's blood roared. His bloodline suddenly burned like a raging fire, and as his bloodline burned, Yi Fei suddenly felt that the pressure around him was no longer so terrifying. At the same time, more information intermittently flowed into his mind. He did not continue forward. Instead, he instantly grasped this information and sat down cross-legged in the space of the 8th level. He began to comprehend and organize this information. Boom! The divine inscription array on the 8th level was constantly absorbing the most violent energy through the earth core fiery eye. It continued to provide the pressure of heaven and earth. This pressure caused Yi Fei to instantly become undistracted. He could only squeeze out all his means to comprehend this information and stimulate his bloodline. 2 hours passed. 4 hours passed. Very quickly, 6 hours passed. It seemed that the pressure around him was about to destroy Yi Fei's sky palace. Suddenly, an even more resplendent layer of blood-red light erupted from Yi Fei's body. At the same time, the intermittent information in Yi Fei's mind was quickly organized by Yi Fei and completed his deduction. Finally, what appeared in Yi Fei's mind was no longer scattered information. It was a powerful connate mystique. However, this mystique was not the God's tribulation that Yi Fei had used before. It was a sword technique mystique called the Sword of Slaughter. How can it be the Sword of Slaughter? Where did the powerful God's tribulation go? Yi Fei was very confused, but he did not think too much about it. After all, he could not control the God's tribulation. He could only use it subconsciously. As for the Sword of Slaughter, Yi Fei felt as if he had been born with it the moment he comprehended it. This was a most amazing thing about a natural mystique. Now, Yi Fei had finally mastered his own natural mystique. Sword of Slaughter. Yi Fei suddenly stood up. The moment he comprehended the mystique, he took out his dark steel heavy sword and slashed it forward. A blood-red sword light turned into a sea of blood that swept out in all directions. It destroyed the heavens and severed the earth. Rumble. The entire bloodline pagoda trembled and shook under Yi Fei's sword. This also made by Shizhong, who had come to deliver the steamed buns, extremely confused. Strange. This kid hasn't cursed or spoken for the past few days. He also ignored my sister when she came to deliver food. Could it be that he has realized that he can't escape and has given up? Bai Shizhong was a little curious. Unfortunately, the bloodline pagoda could not only block his vision, but also his divine sense. In the end, Bai Shizhong found his conscience and stopped throwing rotten steamed buns. Instead, he threw a piece of leftover steamed bun in a good mood. I'm going to torture this kid. Let's see if he still dares to seduce my sister. Bai Shizhong left in a proud and aloof manner. Within the bloodline pagoda, Yi Fei was also grinning from ear to ear. In the past, although he had broken through to the Lord of Heaven, he did not have a suitable mystique to use most of the time. He could only rely on his brute strength to defeat his opponents. Chapter 2287. Bloodline Going Berserk. Even after comprehending the Sword of Slaughter, I still can't break the bloodline seal in my body. The pressure of the 8th level only loosened my seal a little, but it still can't completely destroy the seal. After all, the seal in Yi Fei's body was an innate godly sigil seal. Even Xiao Qiao, a descendant of an immortal, couldn't do anything about it. Since he couldn't break it, the only way left for Yi Fei was to break it with brute force. Seeing that the pressure of the 8th level couldn't affect him anymore, Yi Fei's eyes narrowed. He resolutely stepped into the 9th level, which was also the last level of the Bloodline Treasure Pagoda. At this moment, Xiao Qiao also ran over, looking very scared. After Xiao Qiao reversed the godly sigil on the 9th level, the terrifying pressure actually crushed Xiao Qiao's 5-colored divine light. Xiao Qiao had no choice but to warn Yi Fei. He quickly ran back into the beast-marked space, ate the mystic vein, and fell asleep. In the end, the one who had the hardest time in the Bloodline Treasure Pagoda wasn't Yi Fei or the Dragon Turtle, but Xiao Qiao. After all, reversing the godly sigil layer by layer and arranging tens of thousands of them was very difficult. Seeing how hard-working Xiao Qiao was, Yi Fei was very touched. Then, he became even more determined to step into the 9th level. Boom! When he stepped into the 9th level, Yi Fei was shocked to find that what he was facing wasn't the pressure of heaven and earth, but the pressure of the entire world. Facing the 9th level was like facing an entire world, and it was the real Earth's core world. Yi Fei didn't notice that as the godly sigil on the 9th level reversed, the Earth's core fiery, I suddenly spewed out endless mysterious flames. These flames ignited the entire Bloodline Treasure Pagoda. Similarly, all the divine inscriptions on the 9th level were ignited. At this moment, what Yi Fei was facing wasn't just an ordinary bloodline pressure. There was also a boundless amount of flames that engulfed him. However, these flames didn't harm his body. Instead, they frenziedly gushed into his body. In the end, Yi Fei's entire heavenly palace and his god soul were set ablaze. The pain of his god soul being burned was like walking into hell. Even a warrior with a strong will could collapse because of this. And there was only one consequence of these martial artists collapsing, and that was the annihilation of their divine souls. At the end of the day, the spirit attachment bloodline actually had a certain amount of risk. If it succeeded, it would be good, but if it failed, it would be life-threatening. Therefore, most warriors were very cautious when it came to the spiritual attachment bloodline. Usually, the limit was a single level. For someone like Yi Fei to rush from the lowest level to the 9th level in a single breath was absolutely shocking. At this moment, Yi Fei was facing such a risk. Even though the bloodline pressure on the 9th level was strong enough, the bloodline seal in his body seemed to be even stronger. Under the stimulation of the external pressure, Yi Fei suddenly roared in pain. Suddenly, the sound of chains rattling could be heard from within his body. At the same time, dozens of mysterious chains were released from the depths of Yi Fei's bloodline. They were like dozens of poisonous snakes that tightly bound Yi Fei's body and bloodline. At this moment, under the stimulation of the Bloodline Pagoda, these activated chains actually pierced through Yi Fei's heavenly palace and extended towards Yi Fei's god soul. These are my bloodline seals. Yi Fei looked in shock at the countless chains that flew into his heavenly palace. These were not real chains, but strange symbols formed from innate divine inscriptions. Each symbol was a chain. Dozens of chains combined together to form the special chains that sealed Yi Fei's bloodline. Xiao Qiao, do you recognize these divine inscriptions? Yi Fei asked anxiously. However, he soon remembered that Xiao Qiao was exhausted from reversing the divine inscriptions and had already gone to sleep. At this moment, Xiao Qiao naturally could not answer him or help him. Fortunately, the spatial pressure on the 9th level was strong enough, and the Earth Core Fiery I was strong enough to barely suppress the rampaging of these chains. However, even though they were suppressed, these chains seemed to have a consciousness. After being unable to counterattack Yi Fei, they actually exploded with a mysterious light. They actually counterattacked and suppressed the bloodline pressure on the 9th level. As the bloodline chains counterattacked, the divine inscriptions on the 9th level's divine inscription shattered. At the same time, every time a divine inscription shattered, the spatial pressure on the 9th level would weaken a little. Yi Fei's bloodline was about to go berserk. As his bloodline went berserk, Yi Fei's heart was suddenly filled with a crazed desire to slaughter and kill. This desire caused him so much pain that his divine soul felt like it was about to explode. In his mind, he even had thoughts of harming Xiao Qiao and the dragon turtle. This thought caused Yi Fei to break out in a cold sweat. Not good. There's something strange about my bloodline. If there's no spatial pressure, I might instantly go berserk. Once a martial artist went berserk, they would no longer recognize their own family and become a pure killing machine. At that time, Xiao Qiao and the dragon turtle that were hidden in his body would definitely suffer great damage. Yi Fei did not dare to imagine such a scene. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to stop the backlash from the bloodline seals at all costs. And to stop the backlash from the seals, there seemed to be only one way. That was to constantly maintain the bloodline pagoda and create endless pressure on his bloodline. Bang! At this time, countless divine inscriptions on the 9th level of the bloodline pagoda began to shatter and explode. Yi Fei did not care about anything else. Before the spatial pressure on the 9th level disappeared, he rushed back to the 8th level, the 7th level, the 6th level. Wherever Yi Fei went, the chains behind him would dance, constantly emitting a terrifying divine light. They were like rays of light that constantly destroyed the divine inscriptions. Yi Fei's expression was incomparably solemn and bitter. The heavenly Tao tree had already said that there was a great hidden danger in his bloodline, but he did not care. This time, he was truly suffering the consequences of his own actions. Moreover, if the spatial pressure on the 9th level was unable to suppress the backlash from his bloodline, then the pressure on the other levels was even less likely. In the end, Yi Fei steeled his heart. With a sudden slash of his sword, he pierced through the ground of the bloodline pagoda, revealing the true earth core fiery eye. Since the bloodline pagoda cannot suppress you, I don't believe that the earth core fiery eye cannot suppress you. In the end, the power of the bloodline pagoda came from the earth core fiery eye. At this time, Yi Fei simply stuck his head out and faced the earth core fiery eye directly. He wanted to see what kind of reaction the bloodline shackles would have. However, Yi Fei had forgotten one thing. When he had rushed down, the bloodline shackles had already destroyed most of the divine inscriptions on the bloodline pagoda. Without the suppression of the bloodline pagoda, the earth core fiery eye was undoubtedly at its most violent. Almost as soon as Yi Fei pierced through the ground and came face to face with the earth core fiery eye, an astonishing suction force was transmitted from the fiery eye. In an instant, Yi Fei, along with the bloodline shackles on his body, was completely swallowed up. Chapter 2288. The earth fire was extinguished, but there was nothing he could do. In a situation where his bloodline went berserk, Yi Fei could not use any supernatural powers. Even his heavenly palace and divine soul were firmly restrained by these chains. Brandishing the life-killing sword was already the last of his strength. Once this strength was exhausted, he would only be able to allow the boundless earth flames to suck him in. Dragon Turtle, get ready with Xiao Qiao. However, Yi Fei didn't give up. Anything could happen to him, but nothing could happen to the Dragon Turtle and Xiao Qiao. He had already decided that if the situation went south, he would throw Xiao Qiao and the Dragon Turtle out. It was also at this moment that something unexpected happened to Yi Fei. Sensing the terrifyingly high temperature of the earth fire core, the bloodline chains that were wrapped around Yi Fei and prepared to devour, Yi Fei suddenly clattered. At the same time, they emitted a terrifying divine light, forming a special light shield that actually blocked the earth fire core outside. What's going on? Aren't these bloodline chains going to devour me? Why are they saving me now? Yi Fei widened his eyes in confusion. However, he finally had a chance to observe his bloodline seal. He even suspected that it was a special life form that sealed his bloodline. Otherwise, how could these chains be so intelligent? Not only did they know how to devour the cultivator who broke the seal, but they also knew how to work together to protect each other in times of danger. However, this was the Earth Fire Core after all, the place where the Heaven Realm's flames were the fiercest. Even though these chains immediately worked together to form a special light shield around Yi Fei, there were still wisps of flames that slowly but surely penetrated through the gaps between the divine inscriptions on the chains. Boom! Boom! Within the light shield, the temperature rose sharply. In the blink of an eye, Yi Fei felt his skin become dry. Moisture flowed out of his skin like water, as if his skin was being forcefully baked. This feeling was no less than being in a furnace. But this time, the chains weren't protecting him. Instead, they were emitting divine light mechanically, constantly reinforcing the light shield of the chains. While Yi Fei was sweating profusely, he heaved a huge sigh of relief inwardly. These chains aren't alive. It's just that the innate sacred runes that make them up are too high level. They actually possess some sort of lifelike instinct. Not only can they counterattack, but they can also protect themselves. However, if I allow these seals to remain in my body, they might turn into real life forms over the years. Then, they might control and devour me. Yi Fei thought back to the 2 times he had temporarily activated his bloodline. At first, he thought it was the effect of his bloodline. From the looks of it, it was very likely that the seals were instinctively trying to control and devour him. When he thought of this, Yi Fei felt his hair stand on end. If I allow these chains to seal my body, I might really lose control and turn into a demon one day. He had to find a way to get rid of these chains and break the bloodline seal in his body. Boom! Yi Fei ignored the high temperature around him. Suddenly, he sat down cross-legged within the light shield. Outside the light shield was an endless amount of earth core flames. They were like raging waves that burned the heavens and the earth. They wanted to destroy everything that entered the eye of fire. This was the terror of the earth core fiery eye. Even the bloodline chains were gradually unable to withstand such a terrifying divine fire. The chains gradually turned red from the heat. The sacred runes on them flickered continuously activating more and more powerful energy. At the same time, Yi Fei could clearly feel that after the chains joined forces, they were unable to withstand the burning of the earth core flames. They actually began to extract the Xian energy in his body and the power of his bloodline. Boom! With the support of Yi Fei's strength, the innate divine inscriptions condensed by the bloodline chains grew increasingly resplendent. Gradually, the innate divine inscriptions transformed into constellations that revolved around Yi Fei, incomparably beautiful and mysterious. But upon seeing these constellations, Yi Fei's expression grew even more enraged. It was one thing for these chains to seal his bloodline, but now they were even robbing him of his strength to protect himself. How could there be such a good deal in this world? Yi Fei's heart trembled. These chains seemed to be very afraid of the divine fire in the Earth's core. Perhaps I can use the Earth's fire to destroy these chains that are bothering me. Undying Sword Soul absorb. Taking a deep breath, Yi Fei took advantage of the fact that the chains were resisting the Earth core flames to awaken the undying Sword Soul that had been in a deep slumber for a long time. As the undying Sword Soul absorbed the Earth core flames, a terrifying sword vortex suddenly erupted from Yi Fei's body. This vortex could absorb and refine all kinds of energy. The Earth core flames were also energy, so they could naturally be absorbed as well. Furthermore, the bloodline chains were instinctively protecting themselves. They blocked most of the Earth core flames. Yi Fei did not have to worry that absorbing too much of the Earth core flames would cause his body to be destroyed. Even so, the Earth core flames' power was still too terrifying. Just by absorbing the remnant divine flames that penetrated the light shield, Yi Fei felt as if his entire body had been ignited. His flesh, blood, bones, and even his sky palace and divine soul were all burning fiercely. But in the midst of this burning, Yi Fei could hear the sound of the bloodline chains violently trembling. Yi Fei was surprised to discover that the earth core divine flame he absorbed was miraculously blocking these bloodline chains from the inside, allowing them to continue stealing his strength. Clearly, the bloodline seals that had evolved into chains were also a weakness. Their weakness was that they could not withstand the earth core flames. They could not withstand the destruction from the inside of the bloodline. After understanding this, Yi Fei became even more ruthless. He simply let go of his hands and feet and began to absorb as much as he could. The surging earth core flames were like boiling flames that constantly surged into Yi Fei's body. Even more earth core flames turned into raging waves that continued to burn the bloodline chains from the outside. Under such a pincer attack, even the bloodline chains formed from the innate god runes could not withstand it. In the end, no matter how sturdy a fortress was, it was still the easiest to be broken from the inside. Furthermore, these bloodline seals had their own weaknesses. As long as this weakness was exploited, the following events would be as Yi Fei had predicted. All of a sudden, the tiny bloodline chains snapped, and the innate divine runes on them turned into streaks of light. Without the seals of the chains, Yi Fei was pleasantly surprised to find that he could clearly feel the ripples of his own bloodline. Undying sword soul, continue to absorb from me. Absorb as much as you can. Yi Fei's face was filled with ecstasy. In an instant, he entered a frenzied state of cultivation. He forgot about everything else and just absorbed and refined the earth core divine flames. As Yi Fei cultivated, the innate god runes on the bloodline chains continued to collapse and turn into flowing lights. Gradually, the bloodline aura on Yi Fei's body became more and more intense. Not long after, his bloodline rose from an ordinary grade 2 or 3 bloodline to a grade 4 or 5 bloodline. Then, grade 6 bloodline, grade 7 bloodline. Punk. Chapter 2289. Battle Power Explosion. The earth fire can actually be extinguished? Yi Fei scowled miserably as he looked around at the empty earth's core. Originally, this place had been filled with boundless earth's core flames, but as he frantically absorbed them, the bloodline chains continued to be calcined. Even the divine fire from the earth core could not withstand such a huge consumption of energy. The endless earth fire quickly dried up. Of course, whether the earth fire dried up or not was none of Yi Fei's business. After all, the earth fire did not belong to him, so he did not feel the pain of using it up. But the key was that there were still a dozen bloodline chains on Yi Fei's body that had not been refined by the earth fire. At this moment, after sensing that the danger had passed, these bloodline chains once again erupted with the light of the innate god runes and surged back into Yi Fei's body. And Yi Fei clearly sensed that his bloodline, which he had painstakingly raised to grade 7, was instantly sealed again. Although the seal this time was not as strong as before, Yi Fei was still so angry that he wanted to hit someone. But fortunately, although my bloodline has been sealed, my natural mystique can still be used. Even my cultivation level has risen to the Lord of Heaven intermediate stage. Yi Fei spread out his hands again. In his hands, there was an inexplicable aura of a law. But this time, the law that appeared was not the battle magic law, but the earth fire law, a very special level 3 law. Originally, Yi Fei had never comprehended such a law, but he had used the undying sword soul to absorb the entire earth core fiery eye. As a result, Yi Fei had forcefully obtained this earth fire law while breaking through. Yi Fei did not know whether to laugh or cry. Bai Shizhong, who came every day to deliver rotten buns, was deeply shocked. These past few days, he had always felt that the bloodline pagoda was strange. But as for what was strange, Bai Shizhong couldn't pinpoint it. Until today, when Yi Fei extinguished the earth fire. Bai Shizhong's powerful spiritual attachment talent finally allowed him to sense that something was wrong with the bloodline pagoda. Strange, what did that kid do to the Bloodline Pagoda? Why can't I feel the aura of the innate god runes on the Bloodline Pagoda? Swoosh. Bai Shizhong's eyes blossomed with a special divine light. It was very similar to Xiao Chao's heaven and earth spiritual eye, but it was many times weaker. Even so, Bai Shizhong could still easily see through the space of the Bloodline Pagoda and clearly see the scene inside. That scene was absolutely unbearable to look at. It was even more terrifying than being robbed by bandits. After all, bandits only took treasures. However, Yi Fei had destroyed more than half of the divine inscriptions painstakingly carved by several generations of the Lord Pan Palace. Of course, if Yi Fei had only destroyed one level of the pagoda, Bai Shizhong would have been magnanimous enough to give Yi Fei a beating to vent his anger. But this time, Yi Fei hadn't just destroyed a single level of the pagoda. Instead, he had pierced through all 9 levels of the pagoda. And that wasn't enough. Most importantly, there was a scorched black hole at the bottom of the pagoda. As a prodigy of the Lord Pan Palace, Bai Shizhong naturally knew that the charred hole led to the Earth's core fire eye. However, under Bai Shizhong's gaze, not only did the Earth's core not emit any divine fire, but it was also gradually cooling down. The Earth's core fire is actually extinguished. When Bai Shizhong discovered this, he almost fainted on the spot. One had to know that other than the Bloodline Pagoda, the Earth's core fire eye was the reason why the Lord Pan Palace could improve a martial artist bloodline. Now that the Earth's core fire eye was extinguished, how could the Lord Pan Palace improve a martial artist bloodline? Bai Shizhong didn't believe it and hurriedly took a bite of the rotten mantu in his hand. The rotten taste in his mouth finally confirmed that he wasn't dreaming. The Earth's core fire was really extinguished. At that moment, he was shocked to see a black figure crawl out of the black hole with a guilty conscience. Bai Shizhong no longer had any doubts. Yi Fei, you demon. The Patriarch only imprisoned you and didn't hurt you. How could you do such a deranged thing? Bai Shizhong spat out the mantu in his mouth and charged straight into the Bloodline Pagoda. After all, a pagoda without any divine inscriptions was no different from an abandoned pagoda. He could enter and leave as he pleased. Brother Bai, please listen to my explanation. Yi Fei had a helpless expression on his face. Even though he had found a way to break the seal, he still felt that he was too unlucky to have been abandoned by the heavens. He had actually managed to extinguish the Earth's core fire just by breaking the seal. Furthermore, Bai Shizhong had happened right in front of him. There was no excuse for him to deny it now. Explain my ass. Yimo, there's nothing left for you to say to my Lord Pan Hall. Let's fight. Bai Shizhong was furious. He immediately executed the Lord Pan stands erect 1,000 peaks. The whistling fist transformed into layers of mountain peaks that smashed toward Yi Fei. Yi Fei knew that he had definitely gotten himself into big trouble this time. He secretly rejoiced that the one who had discovered him was Bai Shizhong. If it had been the Patriarch of Lord Pan, he would have probably slapped him to death on the spot. This won't do. I can't stay in this Lord Pan Hall any longer. I better run quickly. Yi Fei was depressed. He didn't fight with Bai Shizhong. He spread his azure dragon wings and turned into an azure cloud. He soared into the sky and prepared to charge out of the Bloodline Pagoda. At the same time, Yi Fei gripped a token in his hand. He had already decided that if he really couldn't escape, he would have to use his last chance to ask the deathmatch arena for help. But if I do that, I'll be considered an enemy of the Lord Pan Hall. Yi Fei shook his head inwardly. He was already looking at the exit. However, Bai Shizhong's furious roar came from behind him. Yimo, where do you think you're going? Watch how I beat you to death today. Boom. Bai Shizhong was truly angry this time. His fists suddenly clenched together, forming an incomparably majestic mountain imprint. It came crashing down on Yi Fei. Yi Fei was instantly enraged. He knew that if he went out, he would definitely be hit by this thunderous attack. The only thing he could do was quickly take out his black, iron-heavy sword. He didn't even think before slashing back. Boom! The sword was like a dragon, piercing the heavens. Yi Fei didn't know how terrifying the sword he had unintentionally released was. It was a sword of killing, but also a sword of death. At the instant this sword pierced out, the entire world turned into a sea of blood. In this sea of blood, the Pan King stood in the middle of 1,000 peaks. It was as if the earth was collapsing, and it disappeared with a loud bang. How is this possible? You're clearly only a mid-stage Lord of Heaven. How can you release a Tao Lord's attack? Bai Shizhong's eyes widened. Yi Fei was also shocked. What? A Tao Lord's attack? I didn't activate any divine runes. How can my combat strength suddenly explode? Could this be the effect of the Sword of Killing? He was only a Lord of Heaven, but he could release a Tao Lord's attack? As for whether it was true or not, there was a ready-made human punching bag in front of him. It would be a waste if he didn't use it. At the same time that he stabbed out with the Sword of Killing, Yi Fei turned around like a dragon. Another, even more terrifying sword light whistled like a mountain, slashing behind him. Bai Shizhong's expression changed drastically. He felt extremely incredulous. Chapter 2290. Uncle Master Bai Shizhong was an expert on the Earth Carnage Proclamation in the end. Even though his ranking was near the back, his Tao Lord Realm cultivation still gave him a tremendous advantage. The 1,000 peaks shattered. Suddenly, another stretch of mountains and rivers appeared in front of Yi Fei with a loud bang. Mountain and river collapsed with a thought. The void trembled, and suddenly, magnificent rivers and majestic mountains appeared. This was Bai Shizhong's strongest martial art. He used his will as a guide to condense a terrifying mountain and river phenomenon, and once again he attacked Yi Fei. But this time, Yi Fei didn't dodge. Instead, he roared. The power of the Sword of Slaughter gave him great confidence. Dazzling sword light erupted from Yi Fei's body like stars. It suddenly formed a tragic sword of slaughter that could slaughter gods and demons, and once again collided with Bai Shizhong's attack. Boom! Yi Fei swung his heavy black iron sword and suddenly shattered the mountains and rivers. He transformed into an azure dragon that soared into the sky, and his sword shattered the mountains and rivers. Bai Shizhong's countenance turned heavy as an intense battle intent gushed forth from him. Countless divine inscriptions appeared around him, congregating into a unique, innate technique that blasted outwards. Affected by the effects of these divine inscriptions, Bai Shizhong's eyes widened. The seemingly shattered mountains and rivers suddenly reversed, and a fierce dragon turned back. The mountain peak condensed and suppressed Yi Fei's body. The river surged and attacked Yi Fei's soul. Bai Shizhong, an expert on the Earth Carnage role, finally revealed his extraordinary side. If it was a few days ago, Yi Fei wouldn't have been able to resist Bai Shizhong at all. But now he had a powerful attack, the Sword of Slaughter. He also had a powerful defense, the Golden Body of Laws. At the same time, he also had a powerful speed, the Azure Dragon Wings. When these three combined, Yi Fei suddenly soared into the sky like a trapped dragon. His sword light carried a dazzling light, and his golden body released an endless battle intent. Azure, cloud-like afterimages appeared on his dragon wings. As he dodged Bai Shizhong's attack, the resplendent Sword of Slaughter destroyed the mountain and cut the river in half with the aura of death. This child is actually able to contend against Shizhong in the Lord of Heaven realm. The abnormality of the Bloodline Pagoda had actually alarmed the old monsters of the Lord Pan Hall long ago. However, their reactions were a step too slow, allowing Bai Shizhong to act first. As the most outstanding genius of the Lord Pan Hall, they obviously believed that Bai Shizhong would definitely be able to take down Yi Fei. But the result was completely unexpected. Yi Fei, a mid-stage Lord of Heaven, was able to contend against an early-stage Tao Lord. Even though the battle would only last for a short period of time, as long as Bai Shizhong continued to fight with the advantage of his cultivation, he would surely win the battle in the end. However, the powerful battle strength that Yi Fei unleashed still shocked these old monsters. What should we do? Should we suppress this kid? Of course we should. This kid is simply here to cause trouble. Wherever he goes, he destroys. What's worse is that he even extinguished the earth fire. But old ancestor Pan Wang only ordered us to imprison him. He didn't order us to attack him. Those old monsters were all very conflicted. Furthermore, as seniors, they were truly unable to lower themselves to attack a person of the younger generation. Brother, what are you doing? Last time you attacked Yi Fei, I'll let it go. This time, if you attack him again, I'll ignore you. Bai Yanran rushed over angrily from afar. She had originally secretly delivered food to Yi Fei. Even though Yi Fei hadn't responded to her for the past few days, she hadn't expected to see Yi Fei rush out of the bloodline pagoda and fight with Bai Shizhong when she came over. Bai Yanran was a little anxious. She immediately put down the lunchbox and rushed over to stop them. This also shocked Yi Fei and Bai Shizhong. Their current attack strength was at the Dao Lord level. It wasn't wise for Bai Yanran to rush in. Bai Shizhong hurriedly stopped and quickly retreated. He then blocked Bai Yanran in front of him. Yanran, hurry up and leave. This demon surnamed Yi is crazy. Be careful that he doesn't take you hostage. Yi Fei is a demon. How is that possible? Brother, there must be some misunderstanding. Bai Yanran refused to believe it and wanted to get closer to Yi Fei. Bai Shizhong immediately blocked her again, as if he was facing a great enemy. The group of old monsters also cursed angrily. He's a demon indeed. He's only been in Lord Pan Palace for a few days, but he's already stolen Yinran's soul. Uncle Masters, if you continue to talk nonsense, I'll ignore you in the future. Bai Yanran's face was flushed. Clearly, she didn't know how to explain. Yi Fei almost vomited blood. This misunderstanding was deeper than the sea. He admitted that he had a good impression of Bai Yanran, but it wasn't to the extent of liking her. Moreover, he already had someone he liked. Brother Bai, elders, this is really a misunderstanding. I'll take my leave first. I'll explain after you calm down. More and more Dao monarchs were gathering around him. If he didn't run now, he would die here. Yi Fei hurriedly flapped his dragon wings and prepared to flee. He had also secretly prepared himself to deal with any obstructions from the Lord Pan Palace. Strangely enough, none of these Dao monarchs, including Bai Shizhong, stopped Yi Fei. Bai Yanran even hurriedly bowed in Yi Fei's direction. Yanran greets the patriarch of Lord Pan. Greetings, patriarch. Bai Shizhong and all the other old freaks present bowed. Only then did Yi Fei realize that there was another person behind him without him noticing. And because Xiao Chao was still sleeping and the dragon turtle was fusing the bloodline, he actually didn't notice that someone was approaching him from behind. And this person was none other than Lord Pan. Greetings, Uncle Master Pan. Yi Fei was shocked, but on the surface, he calmly turned around and bowed respectfully to Lord Pan like the others. He also thought it through. Since Lord Pan could appear behind him silently, he couldn't run even if he wanted to. It was better to be a little more humble. Of course, he secretly prepared the token Shui Tu gave him. If Lord Pan really wanted to harm him, he could only fight to the death and ask Shui Tu, a divine lord, to help him. Uncle Master, hearing Yi Fei's shameless address, Bai Shizhong and the group of old monsters all had strange expressions. Bai Yanran even secretly broke out in cold sweat for Yi Fei. But Lord Pan's attitude was very strange. Hearing Yi Fei's address, not only was he not angry, he even asked with interest, "You and I just met by chance. Why do you call me Uncle Master?" Only then did Yi Fei raise his head and sneak a glance at Lord Pan. He saw that Lord Pan was actually an old man in a half-blue robe. He didn't have the slightest demeanor of an expert. Only Lord Pan's eyes were very bright, like the stars, shining with the light of wisdom. Obviously, he wasn't easy to fool. However, Yi Fei secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Although Lord Pan didn't look easy to deal with, he didn't have Renzu's aura on him. He still had the aura of a divine lord, just like Shui Tu in the arena of life and death. This made Yi Fei feel relieved. Chapter 2291. Pan Wang's attitude. Since Pan Wang wasn't Renzu, Yi Fei wasn't that worried. He smiled calmly and said, "Martial uncle, you may not know this, but when I was in Qing province, senior brother Rizu once told me that he was stronger than martial uncle in terms of cultivation, but in terms of wisdom and contributions to the heavenly palace of despair, he couldn't catch up to martial uncle. Therefore, I can only call Rizu senior brother, but I have to call Pan Wang martial uncle. Hearing this explanation, the group of old monsters by Shizhong and his sister all widened their eyes with strange expressions. Bai Shizhong even cursed angrily. Yimo, how shameless. How can you even say something like this? So that's how it is. Little guy, you're quite sensible. That bastard lightning ancestor, apart from having a higher cultivation level than this old man, is there anything else that he can compare to this old man? You're very good. From today onwards, you can call this old man martial uncle. Pan Wang was very calm and immediately confirmed the specific seniority between him and Yi Fei. Bai Shizhong was dumbfounded. The ancestor's wisdom was as deep as the abyss. How could he not see that Yi Fei was clearly flattering him? How could he know the deeper meaning behind Yi Fei's address? Yi Fei and Rizu only called each other senior brother, but to Pan Wang, who was of the same generation as Rizu, he called him martial uncle. This imperceptibly made Rizu a level lower than Pan Wang. Pan Wang and Rizu had a deep enmity, so Pan Wang was naturally very satisfied with the way Yi Fei addressed him. Even his gaze towards Yi Fei became much gentler. The group of old monsters also stared at each other and said in surprise, "This kid is strange. If he calls Pan Wang martial uncle, doesn't that mean we have another junior brother, and Bai Shizhong has become martial nephew?" What martial nephew? Bai Shizhong's face was filled with shock. He couldn't imagine the scene of Yi Fei calling him martial uncle in the future. Bai Shizhong hurriedly reminded him, "Old ancestor, please reconsider. Disregarding the grudge between you and the lightning ancestor, just based on the fact that he destroyed the bloodline pagoda and extinguished the earth core fiery eye, this matter cannot be forgotten." That's right. Since you're my martial nephew, why did you extinguish the earth fire? Brat, you couldn't have been sent by Rizu to cause trouble, could you? The group of old monsters looked very unfriendly. If Yi Fei had destroyed the bloodline pagoda, they would have tolerated it. However, the extinguishing of the earth fire was something they could not tolerate. Pan Wang also looked at Yi Fei with a faint smile. How do you explain the earth fire? I'm at martial uncle's disposal. Yi Fei's face was dark. Since he had been caught in public, he couldn't deny it even if he wanted to. He could only take the initiative to admit his mistake. Pan Wang nodded slightly at his attitude. If you were from Rizu and dare to cause trouble here, this old man would definitely kill you on the spot. However, since you call me martial uncle, it's inevitable that you won't be satisfied if I kill you. How about this? This old man will give you 3 months to find a new fire seed and reignite the earth fire. If you succeed, you will live. If you fail, you will pay with your life. Do you agree? Pan Wang's gaze suddenly turned cold. This person was a divine lord expert, after all. It was already shocking that Yi Fei had destroyed the bloodline treasure pagoda. Now that the earth fire had been extinguished, even Pan Wang was shocked. However, Pan Wang didn't fly into a rage on the spot. Instead, he gave Yi Fei a deadline of 3 months. This made Yi Fei secretly puzzled. However, he was just a small lord of heaven, not to mention resisting a divine lord like Pan Wang. Even if he faced a group of Dao lords who were eyeing him covetously, he could only be suppressed and beaten. Thinking of this, Yi Fei calmed down and nodded. All right, where can I find a fire seed? I'll go now. Now is not the time. You've just awakened your innate mystique and still need some time to adjust. How about this? In a month, someone will take you to find a fire seed. As for whether you succeed or not, that will depend on your luck. Pan Wang shook his head and didn't say much. Then he waved his hand. Everyone disperse. From now on, martial nephew Yi will live in the inner court. You all take good care of him. The Dao Lords immediately stood behind Yi Fei, their faces grim. Yi Fei's face darkened. How was this taking care of him? This was clearly surveillance. Now, he had nowhere to run, even if he wanted to. Apart from obediently following the Weaver King's orders to search for a new flame seed, the Weaver King did not say much. After dealing with the matters here, he silently disappeared from where he was. He actually let him go just like that. What is the patriarch thinking? Bai Shizhong was puzzled. He felt that Pan Wang seemed to be too lenient with Yi Fei. However, Bai Yanren was very happy for Yi Fei. That's great. Yi Fei, you caused such a big trouble, but the patriarch didn't punish you. It seems that the patriarch likes you very much. Little Yanran, I'm afraid the patriarch isn't the only one who likes this kid, right? The group of old monsters nearby began to tease again, causing Bai Yanran's face to turn red. Yi Fei was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. This was because he realized that Bai Shizhong was looking at him with a gaze that could kill. Sister, come here. I have something to tell you. This Yi Fei's origins are unknown. He's a first-class demon. You should avoid contact with him in the future, Bai Shizhong advised earnestly, afraid that Bai Yanran would go astray. Bai Yanran blinked her eyes. Brother, I'll listen to you. I won't contact him. I just want to ask him for some knowledge about spiritual attachment. This guy can even reverse godly glyphs. He lied to me before and said he was a rookie. I'm going to ask him for his explanation. With that, Bai Yanran walked towards Yi Fei. She was clearly very curious about Yi Fei's method of reversing the sacred runes. Seeing this scene, Yi Fei was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged. Of course, Yi Fei was even more confused by Pan Wang's attitude. He didn't believe that Pan Wang would look at him in a new light and let him go for the time being just because he called him martial uncle. There must be a deeper reason behind this. I can ask Bai Yanran about this. Thinking of this, Yi Fei also took the initiative to walk towards Bai Yanran. The two of them quickly got together and started chatting. Seeing this scene, Bai Shizhong's veins were bulging and his fists were clenched tightly. He had the urge to beat someone up at any moment. In the void, there was a pair of eyes staring at Yi Fei. A sharp sword appeared in Pan Wang's hand. Suddenly, Pan Wang unsheathed his sword. What he used was actually similar to Yi Fei's natal mystique, the Sword of Slaughter. However, Pan Wang's sword was very weak. It's still not enough. This Sword of Slaughter can only be used by those with the true bloodline of the earthly emperor. Others can't use its charm, even if they deduce the rules within it. Thunderdog, is this the reason you sent this kid here? I didn't expect that there would be a heaven-abandoned body in this world. Pan Wang held his sword and looked coldly at the void. Chapter 2292. Geocentric world. That may be the case, but this kid's origins are unknown. It's best to be careful. After all, the heavenly palace of despair was destroyed because the palace lord was kind-hearted and misjudged someone, leading a wolf into the house. Once is enough for such a mistake, but it must not happen a second time. Pan Wang shook his head. Although he let Yi Fei go, he did not trust Yi Fei. Rizu fell silent. After a long while, he asked coldly, Then how do you plan to deal with this Yi Fei? Deal with him? Why should I deal with him? It's rare that he's willing to call me martial uncle. This old man has decided to observe him carefully for a while before making a decision. Pan Wang suddenly laughed. Riza let out an angry roar. What? That kid calls me senior brother, but calls you martial uncle? Preposterous. Boom! The door of light trembled as if a lightning beast was squeezing its way out, wanting to reason with the Weaver King. The Weaver King immediately snorted coldly, and a sword light shattered the door of light. He sneered. He can call me martial uncle. That's my ability. You lightning dog, you should just stay in the Azure province and be a stray dog. Pangu, don't be arrogant. Wait until this sovereign completely dispels the void poison. Then I'll beat you into a dead worm. Rizu's angry roars came from behind the shattered door of light. It was unclear whether the relationship between Pan Wang and Rizu was good or bad. Similarly, after repeated questioning by Yi Fei, Bai Yanran still could not say whether Pan Wang's attitude towards Yi Fei was friendly or not. Helpless, Yi Fei could only ask about the fire seed. Bai Yanran knew a lot about this, so he immediately told Yi Fei, The geocentric fiery I can only be ignited with a special fire seed. However, this kind of fire seed can only be found in one place near the city of divine monarchs, and that is the geocentric world. Bai Yinran's expression was grave. Yi Fei did not think too much. The geocentric fiery I was extinguished because of me. No matter what, I must find a new fire seed. By the way, could this core world be a grotto heaven? It's not a grotto heaven, it's a celestial. Bai Yinran shook his head. This is also the strangeness of the geocentric world. The other heavens exist in the void, but the geocentric heavens are hidden underground. It is said that this has something to do with the fact that the ancient emperor who created the grotto heaven was not a human. Therefore, this heavens is very unfriendly to humans who enter. There are a total of 7 danger zones near the city of God Kings, and the core of the planet is ranked first. After listening to Bai Yinran's explanation, Yi Fei realized that the geocentric flame seed wasn't easy to obtain. Since the geocentric realm hadn't been created by the ancient emperor of the human race, there were corresponding restrictions on human martialists who could enter. Only martialists below the Tao Lord level could enter the geocentric realm. On the contrary, non-human martialists or vicious beasts could ignore their cultivation level and enter the geocentric realm. This also made the risk of entering the geocentric realm much higher. If possible, Yi Fei really didn't want to enter such a place and risk his life. However, when he thought about the seal in his body that hadn't been completely broken, he finally made up his mind. He had to go to the geocentric realm. He had to bring back a new fire seed in order to resolve the resentment of the Lord Pan Palace. He also had to think of a way to refine more geocentric flame in order to break the bloodline seal in his body. When he thought of this, Yi Fei didn't hesitate any longer. After talking to Bai Yinran, he shut himself in his room and started to cultivate diligently. Since the Lord Pan said that he would give me 3 months, I will use 1 month to completely consolidate my cultivation level. The rest of the time, I will go to the geocentric realm and look for the geocentric flame seed. Yi Fei started to cultivate quietly. His main goal was to comprehend the newly comprehended geocentric flame law. This kind of law wasn't suitable for fusing with the nomological golden body. However, it could be used to increase the power of other martial techniques. At the moment, what Yi Fei wanted to improve the most was the Azure Dragon Wings. After all, the Sword of Slaughter was a natural mystic power. It could only be improved by improving one's bloodline. However, the Azure Dragon Wings was different. This was an incomplete Divine Lord mystic power. Although Yi Fei didn't have the ability to derive a Divine Lord mystic power at the moment, Yi Fei could use this time to think of a way to combine the Azure Dragon Wings with the geocentric flame law. He could try his best to perfect the Azure Dragon Wings and use it as a speed mystic power in the Lord of Heaven realm. Of course, this was an extremely long process. After all, creating a mystic power was always more difficult than cultivating a mystic power. Fortunately, Yi Fei still had the undying sword soul, which could infinitely increase his perception. This also allowed him to save a lot of time to comprehend and deduce the mystic power. Just like this, a month passed very quickly. Yi Fei's mid-stage Lord of Heaven realm had completely stabilized. However, the derivation of the Azure Dragon Wings wasn't very smooth. At the moment, he could barely combine the geocentric flame law with the Azure Dragon Wings. If he wanted to completely fuse them and form a brand new mystic power, he still needed some time. It's a pity that I don't have time now. After all, the Lord Pan only gave me 3 months. Furthermore, Xiao Chao should be waking up soon. Looking at the sleepy Xiao Chao in the beast mark space, Yi Fei didn't say anything. He directly took out a large amount of Xian veins and placed them in front of Xiao Chao. After all, Yi Fei had promised Xiao Chao that once he reversed the Bloodline Pagoda's divine runes, he could even eat the Xian veins as much as he wanted. And once he woke up, he would have a large amount of Xian veins to eat. This was undoubtedly a very happy thing. Xiao Chao happily jumped into Xian veins and rolled around. What spoiled the mood was that at this moment, a black mouth suddenly stretched out and licked Xiao Chao. At the same time, it had already swallowed 1/3 of the Xian veins on the spot. Xiao Chao's happy expression immediately froze. Yi Fei was so angry that he wanted to grab the dragon turtle and beat it up. But at this moment, a series of knocks on the door interrupted Yi Fei's actions. Demon Yi, it's been a month. 1 month's time is up. Today is the day that the core world opens. If you still don't come out, then you can only wait until next month. A certain old monster's voice came from outside. They were ordered to watch over Yi Fei. Yi Fei immediately opened the door gloomily and said, "Where's the core world? Please give me a map. I'll go over right now." "No, the ancestor said that we have to watch over you. You've smashed our Lord Pan Palace so many times. If you run away halfway, wouldn't we suffer a great loss?" These old monsters were quite serious. Yi Fei's face darkened when he heard this. Fortunately, at this moment, Bai Yanran walked over and bowed to the old monsters. Martial uncles, don't worry. Yi Fei won't run away because I'll watch over him." "What? Little Yanran, you want to go to the core world too?" "That won't do. It's too dangerous inside. 9 out of 10 Lord of Heaven will die inside. You definitely can't go." The old monsters shook their heads in unison, their faces full of affection. Yi Fei's face darkened even more. However, he was the one who extinguished the earth fire. Moreover, the earth fire was necessary to break the bloodline seal. No matter how gloomy Yi Fei was, he could only brace himself and barge in. Chapter 2293. Family Wong's Murderous Intent. "What did you say?" "My sister took the token and went to the core world with Yi Fei. I regret it so much. Why didn't I kill that devil Yi back then?" Bai Shizhong clenched his fists and his hair stood on end. He had just received news that Bai Yanran had stolen the Patriarch's token and came to see Yi Fei. He had a vague feeling that something was amiss. He never expected that Bai Yanran would choose to go to the core world with Yi Fei. The old monsters looked at each other and shouted together. Yanran actually gave false orders. Could she really have fallen in love with that kid? It's not to the extent of liking him. However, my sister is a person who appears weak on the outside, but is strong on the inside. She always believes that she has implicated Yi Fei. Perhaps she is doing this to compensate Yi Fei. However, she knows how dangerous the core world is. Bai Shizhong still remembered the first time he stepped into the core world. It was when he broke through to the late-stage Lord of Heaven and joined forces with the geniuses of the other factions in the city of Divine Kings to enter. In the end, other than Bai Shizhong and another genius from the Palace of Divine Kings, everyone else who entered died. How could Bai Shizhong not be worried when he heard that Bai Yanran had entered? He moved almost immediately and walked towards the entrance of the core world. However, Bai Shizhong was still a step too late. By the time he arrived, Yi Fei and Bai Yanran were no longer at the entrance of the core world. Instead, Bai Shizhong's actions inadvertently attracted the attention of Family Wong spies. This was a very shrewd spy. He followed Bai Shizhong silently and secretly bribed the warriors who entered the Lord Pan Hall to improve their bloodline. He easily found out the details of how Yi Fei and Bai Yanran entered the core world together. This person did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly sent the information back to Family Wong. Family Wong never gave up on his plan to target Yi Fei. After all, Yi Fei's request to the arena of death to destroy the Yin family had inadvertently ruined Family Wong's plan to control and annex the Yin family. Furthermore, Wang Xiu's nickname as the Egg-Shattering King had already spread throughout the city of Divine Kings. This made Wang Xiu's hatred for Yi Fei run deep. It was said that Wang Xiu cursed Yi Fei in his sleep to remind himself of the shame of his egg shattering. When he heard that Yi Fei had left the safety of the Lord Pan Hall and entered the dangerous core world, Wang Xiu could no longer hold himself back. He immediately roared with a sharp voice. "Yimo, I've finally got the chance to kill you. Yi Fei, I've finally got a chance to kill you. This time, I've finally got a chance to kill. This time, no. Family Wong's Lord of Heaven can't be assigned to you." After all, Yi Fei still has a condition in his hands to request for the life and death arena to act. As long as he doesn't use this bargaining chip, we won't be able to mobilize the Wang family to deal with him. Father Wang shook his head. He could still distinguish between the family's interests and Wang Xiu's personal grudge. Hearing this, Wang Xiu's face suddenly became extremely ugly. He roared unwillingly. Does it mean that if he doesn't fulfill that condition, we will never find him for revenge? He destroyed the Yin clan, and he destroyed me. How humiliating was it to have his egg shattered? If he didn't kill Yi Fei, Wang Xiu wouldn't dare to go out to meet anyone. Especially after being cooped up at home for the past few days, Wang Xiu's mentality was gradually becoming twisted. Father Wang sighed when he saw Wang Xiu in such a state. He knew that if he didn't let Wang Xiu vent the hatred in his heart, a genius like Wang Xiu might really not be able to recover from this setback. Father Wang said with a cold expression, "Son, don't worry. If Yifei had gone somewhere else, we wouldn't have been able to make a move. But he just had to go to the Earth's core. He's courting death. Son, follow me." Father Wang took the lead and walked into a secret passage. At the end of the passage, there was a statue of an evil spirit holding a steel fork. Father Wang pointed at the statue with a cold expression and said proudly, "Everyone thinks that family Wang relied on sucking up to the God King Palace to get to where we are today. How would they know that family Wang's true background is? Xiu, don't you want to take revenge? Take this token and enter the Earth's core. This way, even if family Wang doesn't send a single person, you can still easily kill Yi Fei in there." As a genius of family Wang, Wang Xiu wasn't stupid. He took the eerie token and immediately said, "Father, could it be that our family Wang has some power in the Earth's core?" "Haha, I guess so. You'll know when you get there. I guarantee that as long as you enter, not only will you be able to take revenge, but you'll also be treated like a prince. It won't be impossible for you to take down that little girl Bai Yanran." Father Wang laughed sinisterly. When he heard this and thought about Bai Yanran's appearance and figure, Wang Xiu's breathing became hurried. A sinister flame burned on his body. Then, the father and son laughed sinisterly. They laughed very proudly. Yi Fei was very surprised when he entered the Earth's core. He had thought that the Earth's core would be extremely dangerous, but he actually found an ancient city inside. Although the ancient city had been abandoned for many years, there were still people coming and going in the ruins inside. Many of them were under the Lord of Heaven. Of course, there were also people under the Lord of Heaven, but they were in the minority. That's strange. Isn't this the most dangerous place? Why are there so many people living here? Yi Fei was very puzzled. Bai Yanran smiled and explained, "I didn't know before. Later, I asked my brother, and he told you that although the Earth's core is dangerous, there are also countless opportunities inside. After all, this is a heaven created by an ancient emperor. Even if the ancient emperor's inheritance has been taken away, there are still many treasures inside. For example, the Earth's core fire seed is very precious. There are also some unique treasures that are very helpful for warriors under the Lord of Heaven to break through to the Tao Lord realm. As for this city, it's called the Earth's core city. It was built by the Lord of Heaven later on. After several wars, although it has become a ruin, it's the only safe place for us humans in the Earth's core." As he spoke, Bai Yanran took the lead and walked towards the ruined city. Soon, many consciousness of the Lord of Heaven spread out and scanned the city. When they found that it was humans and not vicious beasts, most of them retracted their consciousness. However, there was a hidden consciousness that refused to retreat and was still spying on Bai Yanran. Bai Yanran looked very displeased. Yi Fei, on the other hand, did not think too much about it. His gaze suddenly followed the spiritual sense and swept forward. Sword light burst forth from his eyes. There was a loud bang as a rock in front of him was shattered into pieces. A man in brocade clothes rushed out from behind the rock in surprise. "Your Excellency, your dark force is very profound. You can condense your gaze into a sword. Strange, isn't your Lord Pan Palace good at divine runes? How did a sword genius like you appear?" Chapter 2294. Little man tracking by Yanran, on the other hand, asked in surprise, "How did you know we're from Lord Pan's palace?" One had to know that when she decided to sneak out with Yi Fei, she had carefully disguised herself. Now, Bai Yinran was not wearing a skirt. She was dressed in men's clothes, tried her best to hide herself. The red-clothed man smiled when he heard that. He cupped his hands together and said, "Ha, that's very simple. I once met young Master Bai from the Lord Pan Hall. He told me that he had a younger sister who was extremely beautiful. Even though the lady was dressed as a man, her appearance was somewhat similar to young Master Bai. That was why I was able to deduce that you might be from the Lord Pan Hall." "Right. I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Li Chong, from the Li family of the City of God Kings." Li Chong introduced himself enthusiastically. "Bai Yinran, Yi Fei." Li Chong was very good with words. Since he knew Bai Yinran, Li Chong quickly lowered his guard. Li Chong stared at Bai Yinran in astonishment. "You are that genius divine inscriptionist from the Lord Pan's palace, Bai Yinran? You're Prince Bai's younger sister? That's wonderful." As for Yi Fei, who was standing at the side, he was only in the middle stage of the Lord of Heaven. He was not dressed like a high-level member of the Lord Pan Palace. So Li Chong automatically ignored him and treated him as a follower who was protecting Bai Yinran. Yi Fei was speechless. This was the first time Bai Yinran had come out to train, so he was very curious. He could not help but follow Li Chong's words and ask, "Are there ancient ruins in the core world?" "Yes, of course there are. Moreover, there are many ruins. However, they don't belong to our human race. They belong to the Heaven Ghoul race. However, those ruins are sealed with divine inscriptions unique to the Heaven Ghoul race. Even many powerful grandmasters of spiritual augmentation would find it difficult to open them. We recently came across a ruin, but we don't have a grandmaster of spiritual augmentation. That's why I returned to the core city to look for a grandmaster of spiritual augmentation to go treasure hunt with us." Li Chong's words were incessant. His intentions were clear. He wanted to invite Bai Yinran to go treasure hunt with them. After all, Bai Yinran's reputation as a grandmaster of spiritual augmentation was very well known in the City of God Kings. Hearing Li Chong, Yi Fei Li Chong's the of spiritual augmentation to go. Li Chong's Li Chong was Chong, 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 Chong. Chong, Chong, Chong was Chong. Chong! Yi Fei glanced at the incessant Li Chong. He wasn't Bai Yinran. He wasn't deeply involved in the world. As the saying goes, one must always be wary of others. The more dangerous the place, the more vigilant one must be. Then forget it. After all, our time is limited. It's more important to find the earth fire. Bai Yinran nodded. She didn't say much and turned to leave with Yi Fei. Li Chong stood there awkwardly. He had said so much and even revealed the secret of the ruin. If it were anyone else, they would have been blinded by greed and wanted to go there directly. However, Yi Fei had rejected him so easily. He doesn't even want the treasure that's delivered to his doorstep. Is he stupid? Li Chong spat on the ground. His face was fierce. He didn't have the warmth and friendliness from before. At this moment, a few Lord of Heaven walked out from behind Li Chong. They were old and young. Some of them even had the smell of blood on them. "Li Chong, have you found the new spirit augmentation master I asked you to find?" "I just found one, and she's from the Lord Pan Palace." I was about to persuade her. Unfortunately, there was a man beside her who was an eyesore and left. Li Chong said with a face full of bad luck. Hearing this, these Lord of Heaven sneered. "Since she's an eyesore, just kill her. This is the core world, not the city of divine kings. Even if you kill someone, don't worry. No one will care. That may be so, but that's the Lord Pan Palace after all. Moreover, that woman is Bai Shizhong's sister." Li Chong said hesitantly. If it were anyone else, with Li Chong's ferocity, he would have attacked long ago. However, the identity of the Lord Pan Palace made it difficult for him to do so. After all, Bai Shizhong was an expert on the earth carnage roll. What? That woman is actually Bai Shizhong's sister, the so-called genius spirit augmentation master in the City of Divine Kings? Haha, that's great. The few spirit augmentation masters we found before were all trash. They couldn't even remove those few spirit augmentation traps. However, if we capture this Bai Yinran, the treasures in the ruins will belong to us. The eyes of these Lord of Heaven lit up. Only Li Chong was still a little hesitant. But she's Bai Shizhong's sister after all. We can't care so much. Big Brother only gave us a deadline of 10 days. If we can't find a suitable spirit augmentation master in 10 days, you all know what Big Brother is capable of. One of the Lord of Heaven said with lingering fear. The faces of the others changed drastically. They were obviously very afraid of this Big Brother. Moreover, the greed for the treasures in the ruins finally made Li Chong's expression become fierce. All right, you're right. Compared to Big Brother's punishment, Bai Shizhong's threat is nothing. We'll attack now. Whoosh! Li Chong led these Lord of Heaven and rushed out quickly. At this moment, Bai Yanran had no idea that a person she had only met once would suddenly have evil intentions. At this moment, she said a little regretfully, "Actually, we should have helped that Li Chong. Not to mention that he knows my brother. He's been here longer than us. Perhaps we could have asked him about the location of the geocentric kindling." Yifei smiled bitterly when he heard this. He suddenly felt a little regretful that he had agreed to let Bai Yanran tag along. This girl obviously didn't have much experience in the Jianghu. Bai Yanran, remember this. The first rule of a Jianghu is that one who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. That Li Chong was obviously spying on us with his divine sense from the beginning. After I discovered him, he came out to establish a relationship with us. Also, even if he really is your brother's friend, why would he tell you about the ruins as soon as he met you? Don't you think he's being too generous? Yifei said the reason for his refusal. Bai Yanran was obviously dissatisfied with this reason. Yifei, I think you seem to think too badly of people. This is also the reason why my brother is hostile to you. I can understand your brother's hostility towards me. After all, they were all brothers. If Yifei knew that someone he didn't like dared to approach Yishan, he would definitely raise his sword and cut that person down. However, it's not that I think too badly of people. It's you who think too highly of people. How about this? Why don't we make a bet? I bet that Li Chong will definitely not take it lying down and will come after us. Yifei said very confidently. Upon hearing this, Bai Yanran didn't reply. Instead, she suddenly released her divine sense as if she had understood something. Suddenly, she sensed several strong auras of the Lord of Heaven coming from behind her. One of them was Li Chong's aura. Bai Yanran looked at Yifei with great surprise. How can you tell that Li Chong is a bad person? How can you be so sure that he will definitely come after us? The rules of the Jianghu. Yifei smiled mysteriously. Of course, he wouldn't tell Bai Yanran that these people were discovered by Xiao Chao first. Chapter 2295. Anti-tracking. Then what should we do now? Bai Yanran was obviously panicking. Yifei's expression was also serious. He had judged that Li Chong was up to no good, but he didn't expect him to have so many Lord of Heaven's accomplices. Could it be that Li Chong was telling the truth about the ruins? This thought suddenly flashed through Yifei's mind. However, considering that the Lord of Heaven had many people, Yifei didn't make a move. Instead, he thought of something and quickly took out a ferrule from his space belt. This ferrule was the Azure Sky Treasure Mirror. Yifei remembered that Gao Sickle and the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven had relied on the concealment effect of this mirror to successfully evade the detection of Xiao Chao's spiritual eye of heaven and earth. Bai Yanran, grab my arm and get as close to me as possible. Since these people want to play, I'll play with them. Yifei activated his dark force and activated the Azure Sky Treasure Mirror in his hand. Bai Yanran was very surprised to find that as the mirror emitted light, her aura started to disappear into thin air. Dong! At the same time, the sleeping dragon turtle was grabbed by Yifei. It squatted on the ground like a huge black rock. Quick! That woman released her divine sense just now. She must have discovered us. Li Chong's fierce voice came from afar. If Bai Yanran could discover them with her divine sense, they could naturally discover Bai Yanran's divine sense as well. These people immediately increased their speed. They rushed over in the span of a dozen breaths. Then, the Lord of Heaven's expression darkened. Damn it, that woman actually escaped. Continue to chase after her. She is a famous genius spirit augmentation master in the city of divine kings. If we catch her, not only will Big Brother be happy, the treasures in the ruins will also belong to us. Strange, is there a fat black pig over there? Some Lord of Heaven noticed that when they were talking, there was actually a ridiculously fat turtle not far away. It was looking around. The Lord of Heaven's expression darkened. The others hurriedly waved their hands. It's just a sovereign realm little demon. There's no need to worry about it. That woman definitely won't be able to escape. It's more important to chase after her. The speed of these Lord of Heaven was very fast. According to their judgment, Bai Yanran and Yi Fei would definitely speed up and escape after discovering their pursuit. How could they have known that Yi Fei and Bai Yanran were actually standing not far away from them? It was only because of the dragon turtle that they did not discover them. Instead, they simply ignored the dragon turtles as vicious beasts that were passing by. Bai Yanran looked at Yi Fei in astonishment before curiously sizing up the dragon turtle. However, he saw the dragon turtle's face darken. As it rapidly shrank, it climbed up Yi Fei's pants and hid somewhere. Yi Fei rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully, I didn't expect that this group of people would really find some ruins. Bai Yanran, do you think we should go and take a look? But we don't know where the ruins are. Bai Yanran was a little helpless, but did not object. It's okay. We don't know. It's fine as long as they know. Yi Fei pursed his lips and handed the green cloud treasure mirror to Bai Yanran. They were the ones who followed us just now. Now, it's our turn to follow them. With a whoosh, Yi Fei released the azure dragon wings. However, the azure dragon wings this time were different from before. Due to the integration of the earth and fire laws, the dragon wings, which were condensed from dark energy, faintly glowed with a fiery light. It was very beautiful, and with the integration of the laws, the speed of the dragon wings undoubtedly increased again. Even with Bai Yanran, Yi Fei easily caught up with the Lord of Heaven. At this time, these Lord of Heaven were exasperatedly complaining to each other. They chased for a while, but did not find any trace of their target's aura. It was as if Yi Fei and Bai Yanran had disappeared into thin air. An old Lord of Heaven's face suddenly turned ashen. What should we do? It's not easy to find a genius spirit augmentation master, but he ran away. Should we split up and chase? We can't split up. After all, the other party has 2 Lord of Heaven. If we split up, we may not be able to stop them. It's better to go back and inform Big Brother as soon as possible and let Big Brother make a decision. These Lord of Heaven did not give up and searched for a while, but still could not find any clues. They unluckily took Li Chong and flew into the sky. However, these Lord of Heaven did not notice that there were 2 figures quietly following behind them. These Lord of Heaven did not return to the Earth Core City. Instead, they continued to go deeper into the Earth Core world. Along the way, they kept changing their positions cunningly. They even deliberately walked for a while and stopped to quietly ambush for a while to see if anyone was following them. Unfortunately, the concealment effect of the Qingyun treasure mirror was too good. They did not discover Yi Fei, who was following behind them. One of the Lord of Heaven even said in annoyance, if I knew that we couldn't catch them, I would have caught that black turtle. I have never seen such a fat turtle. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and see Big Brother. After making sure that there was no one behind them, these Lord of Heaven suddenly sped up and rushed into a valley not far away. It seems that the ruins are in this valley. Yi Fei and Bai Yanran looked at each other and also sped up. They quickly followed them into the valley. The valley was filled with the smell of blood, and there were ferocious beasts being killed everywhere. It was obvious that this was once a place where the ferocious beasts of the core world resided, but it was later found by these heavenly monarchs and destroyed. Finally, these Lord of Heaven stopped outside a cave. Outside the cave, a young man with a cold expression was sitting cross-legged. He said in a deep voice, "Why did you come back? Have you found the powerful spiritual augmentation master that I wanted?" "No, a bunch of trash." The young man was furious. Following his anger, the entire valley shook violently. At the same time, stone spears sprouted out of the ground like bamboo shoots after a rain. They suddenly pierced through Li Chong's hands and feet. Li Chong screamed in pain. The other Lord of Heaven also hurriedly knelt on the ground in fear. Big brother, please calm down. Although we didn't find the person, we met by Yanran from the Lord Pan Palace. However, the guards around that woman were too vigilant. They ran away before we could catch up. Li Chong endured the pain and quickly recounted his encounter with Bai Yanran. As for Yi Fei, he was directly treated as a guard sent by the Lord Pan Palace to protect Bai Yanran. Yi Fei was speechless. The cold young man waved his hand and relieved Li Chong of his pain. He sneered, Bai Yanran? The Lord Pan Palace actually allowed her to enter the Earth Core world. However, with her talent and spiritual augmentation, it's more than enough to help us decipher the divine glyphs in this ruin. You guys immediately go out and continue to search for Bai Yanran's whereabouts. If you find her, inform me immediately. I will personally invite her here. When he said invite, a cold glint flashed across the cold young man's face. This cold glint made Li Chong and the others tremble in fear. They submissively prepare to leave. Bai Yanran's brows also flashed with anger. When Li Chong and the others leave, we will go out together and take him down first. Chapter 2296. Luring the snake out of its hole, Yi Fei laughed bitterly and shook his head. This person has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. Moreover, he is very cautious and never leaves the cave. It seems that the cave is not hiding an ordinary relic. We can't act rashly and alert him. Dealing with this young man is secondary. Opening the relic and obtaining the treasures inside is our true goal. I understand what you mean, but he's guarding outside. If we don't defeat him, we won't be able to get close to the cave at all. Bai Yanran shook her head. She felt that Yi Fei was taking things for granted. Yi Fei frowned when he heard this. However, his brows quickly relaxed as he thought of a good idea. He said, since he doesn't want to come out, we'll think of a way to lure him out. Bai Yanran, take the Azure Sky treasure mirror and hide here. Be careful not to expose yourself. All right, I'll lend you the dragon turtle as well. Considering that Bai Yanran might not have enough manpower, Yi Fei thought for a while and took the dragon turtle out again. When it heard that there were treasures to be excavated, the dragon turtle seemed to have been injected with chicken blood and was full of fighting spirit. It even gently rubbed its head against Bai Yanran's skirt to express its friendliness. Yi Fei, could it be that you're going to lure these people away? Bai Yanran looked at Yi Fei in shock. She was a genius in spiritual attachment and was very intelligent. She quickly realized Yi Fei's plan. Yi Fei didn't hide anything. He nodded and said, if I want to snatch food from the tiger's mouth, I have to take some risks. However, don't worry, my Azure Dragon wings are very fast. Unless they also have a Monarch God level speed ability, they won't be able to catch up to me. All right, before I leave, give me a few things. While you're at it, build a teleportation platform here. After carefully reminding Bai Yanran to make sure that he didn't miss anything, Yi Fei quietly left the valley. Before Li Chong and the rest of the Lord of Heaven came out, he shouted at the top of his lungs, Miss Yanran, don't run so fast. The Hall Master ordered me to protect you. This is my duty. At this moment, Li Chong and the rest of the Lord of Heaven happened to walk out of the valley and saw Yi Fei anxiously shouting in midair. The other Lord of Heaven nothing, but Li Chong was laughing. Haha, today is Li Chong. Everyone, he's Yi Fei, he's Bai Yanran Zess. Everyone, he's the Lord of Heaven was. Everyone, he is Yi Fei, Yi. He is Bai, the Lord of Heaven. Boom! As he laughed wildly, a strong murderous intent erupted from Li Chong's body. The other four Lord of Heaven didn't hesitate either. They immediately rushed into the sky in surprise. Yi Fei's expression also changed from anxiety to shock, and then to intense fear. Li Chong, you're the one who brought people to follow us. Just you wait. The Lord Pan Palace will definitely take revenge for what happened today. Miss Yanran, you go first. I'll bring up the rear for you. Yi Fei rushed into the distant sky with incomparable speed. When they heard that Bai Yanran was actually in front of them, Li Chong and the rest were even more bloodthirsty. They roared wildly and sent the news into the valley while viciously chasing after Yi Fei. In the valley, the gloomy youth also received the news of Bai Yanran's appearance immediately. He was stunned for a moment. Bai Yanran's appearance is so coincidental. Could it be a trap? It shouldn't be. These subordinates have been following me for some time. If someone was following us, they definitely wouldn't have dared to enter the valley. It seems that I was overthinking. No matter what, since Bai Yanran has appeared, I must capture her. The treasures in these ruins must belong to me. Boom. In the end, the gloomy youth couldn't hold himself back. He also rushed out of the valley with a sinister aura. Bai Yanran was dumbfounded. She didn't expect Yi Fei to lure everyone away so easily. She subconsciously wanted to walk out. The dragon turtle hurriedly stopped her and motioned for Bai Yanran not to move. At the same time, the dragon turtle lowered its tail, pricked up its ears, and looked around with shifty eyes. Boom! At this moment, an extremely powerful divine sense quickly covered the entire valley from outside. In the sky, the gloomy youth had returned. He looked around coldly. It seems that I was overthinking. That Bai Yanran just happened to pass by here. This is my chance. I can't let it go. After saying that, the gloomy youth turned into a stream of light and completely disappeared from the valley. Bai Yanran's face was full of shock. She didn't expect the youth to be so vigilant. He even deliberately came back to catch her by surprise. Then, she looked at Yi Fei with a strange expression. Little turtle, why do I feel that you and your master are very familiar with doing this kind of thing? Roar? The dragon turtle looked aggrieved, indicating that this was definitely Bai Yanran's misunderstanding. At the same time, a small wooden sign flashed out. On it was written, Pure Turtle. Looking at these 4 words, Bai Yanran didn't know how to react. She didn't react until the dragon turtle had already rushed into the distance. While walking towards the cave, she set up a teleportation platform outside as fast as she could and activated a divine pattern on it. In the sky far away, Yi Fei was also holding a token in his hand. This was the teleportation token that Bai Yanran had given him before he left. As long as he crushed this token, he could activate the teleportation platform at any time. At this moment, Yi Fei clearly noticed that the token in his hand was vibrating. It seems that Bai Yanran's teleportation platform has been set up. Now, I have to buy as much time as possible to create an opportunity for Bai Yanran to decipher the divine pattern. Yi Fei nodded secretly, but he kept shouting, Miss Yanran, leave quickly. I'll fight them to the death today. Kill. While escaping quickly, Yi Fei didn't forget to look behind him and wave after wave of sword energy to block the Lord of Heaven from approaching. Bam! Another mountain peak was cut in half by Yi Fei's sword. He grabbed it with brute force and smashed it behind him. Yi Fei's intense reaction immediately made the Lord of Heaven behind him conclude that Bai Yanran was not far ahead. They all laughed maliciously and immediately chased after him even more vigorously. Li Chong even smashed the mountain peak with a punch. He grinned maliciously at Yi Fei and shouted, Boy, if you don't want to die, surrender voluntarily. Not only will we not kill you, but when we catch Bai Yanran and enjoy the beauty, we'll even let you have a good time. Scram, I'm a member of the Lord Pan Palace. Even if I die, I'll be a ghost of the Lord Pan Palace. As long as I don't die today, I'll definitely report this to the Lord Pan Palace and let your Li family return justice to the Lord Pan Palace. Yi Fei cursed angrily as he ran for his life. At the same time, he kept arguing with the Lord of Heaven to attract their attention. At the same time, he used the mountain peak to block the Lord of Heaven's line of sight behind him. At the same time, he suddenly sped up and completely disappeared from the sight of the Lord of Heaven's divine senses. Then, Yi Fei took out a white dress and instantly put it on the straw doll that Xiao Qiao had made. Without another word, he hugged it with one arm and continued to run forward. Of course, before running for his life, Yi Fei deliberately paused for a moment. It was during this time that the Lord of Heaven behind him had already caught up with him angrily. Hurry up, don't let that boy escape. The woman he's hugging must be Bai Yanran. I recognize her dress. Li Chong also shouted loudly. Since Yi Fei had been drifting at the edge of the Lord of Heaven's divine senses, Li Chong could not use his divine senses to see by Yinran's appearance. However, he could still subconsciously determine by Yinran's identity from her dress. Chapter 2297. Speed competition. The scene in the cave, shocked by Yinran. The ground was littered with corpses. These corpses all belonged to the grandmasters of spiritual augmentation captured by the gloomy youth. The gloomy youth used these grandmasters of spiritual augmentation to decipher the divine runes of spiritual augmentation in the ruins. If he couldn't decipher them, he would kill them to keep the secret. Before Bai Yanran came in, the gloomy youth had already executed more than 10 grandmasters of spiritual augmentation. This made Bai Yanran feel pressured. She wasn't sure if she could decipher the seal of the divine runes here. However, when she thought of Yi Fei, who was still risking his life to attract pursuers, Bai Yanran's expression became resolute again. She let the dragon turtle keep watch at the entrance of the cave. A tricolored spiritual light appeared in Bai Yanran's hand. She began to decipher the complicated divine runes in the ruins. In the sky of the core world, Yi Fei kept shouting, attracting the attention of Li Chong and the others. Often, he also swung his hand backward to send out streaks of sword light, cut off a barren mountain, grabbed a huge rock, and used his own divine power to throw it behind him with a whistling sound. After being provoked like this, Li Chong and the other Lord of Heaven were finally enraged by Yi Fei. Li Chong roared angrily, "When we catch that kid, we'll break his limbs and destroy his sky palace. I want to cripple him completely. Let's see how he can escape." Destroying the sky palace is not enough. Bai Yanran is not only a genius of spiritual augmentation, she's also a famous beauty in the city of divine kings. She must taste good. There's also a Lord of Heaven who laughed sinisterly. It was also at this moment that a violent divine light fluctuation came from behind them. At the same time, a gloomy young man appeared behind these Lords of Heaven, stepping on the fiery light that filled the sky like a fiery cloud. Fire cloud, escape. Big Brother is here. These Lord of Heaven were invigorated. They shouted, "Big Brother, you came at the right time. Bai Yanran is just ahead." However, the kid beside her is strange. He's too fast. We can't catch up. A bunch of idiots. If you can't catch up, can't you burn your source energy to increase your speed? The gloomy young man was very dissatisfied, which made Li Chong and the others' faces turn ugly. They weren't really brothers with the gloomy young man, but they were afraid of his strength and background, so they had no choice but to submit. They could work for the young man, but if they were to sacrifice their lives for the young man, the Lord of Heaven would hesitate. The gloomy youth could also see the hesitation in these people. However, seeing that these people were still following Yi Fei closely and didn't let Yi Fei escape, he suppressed his dissatisfaction and suddenly threw out a bottle of pills, saying, "This is a divine movement pill. After taking it, it can increase your speed to the limit of the Lord of Heaven." "Thank you, Big Brother." Li Chong obviously knew the identity of the gloomy youth. He took the pill and swallowed it without hesitation. Instantly, a powerful aura burst out from Li Chong's body, causing his speed to increase rapidly, leaving behind a series of afterimages as he charged forward. The other Lord of Heaven were overjoyed when they saw this, and they all swallowed the divine movement pill, causing their speed to increase explosively. Only the gloomy young man didn't take any pills at all. Just by relying on the fire cloud under his feet, his speed surpassed that of everyone present. At the same time, an extremely powerful divine sense pierced through the void and fiercely probed forward. Xiao Chao also immediately noticed the terrifying speed of the young man. Xiao Chao waved a small hand and suddenly shot out a 5-colored spiritual light, shattering the young man's divine sense and eliminating the possibility of the young man discovering Yi Fei's real situation through his divine sense. The gloomy young man didn't know that the one who blocked his divine sense was actually Xiao Chao. He only vaguely saw Yi Fei's body explode with a brilliant spiritual light, and his divine sense was shattered, and Yi Fei was still holding by Yan Ran in his arms as he fled for his life. It was easy for people to have a misconception about this. The one who released the spiritual light just now must be by Yan Ran. This girl is indeed a genius of spiritual attachment. If I can catch her, I won't have to worry about not being able to obtain the heavenly ghoul race's ruins. Everyone, listen to my orders. Chase after her with all your might and surround her. Except for Bai Yanran, kill everyone else. Now that he had confirmed Bai Yanran's identity, the gloomy young man no longer held back and used all his strength. The fire cloud under his feet churned and suddenly formed a fiery ray of light. With a whoosh, it broke through the limits of the void and continuously approached Yi Fei. What kind of divine sense is that? It's so fast. This is definitely not a divine sense of the Lord of Heaven. It's very likely a divine sense of a Tao Lord. Yi Fei was shocked. To be able to master a divine sense of a Tao Lord at the level of the Lord of Heaven, this person was definitely not a nameless person. Fortunately, Yi Fei's azure dragon wings, which had been combined with the laws of earth and fire. In terms of speed, although he was not as fast as a true godly lord, he still had a certain advantage over a Tao Lord. At this moment, Yi Fei suddenly accelerated. The huge dragon wings flashed with a brilliant fiery light. The dragon wings formed by mystic energy also turned into fiery wings at this moment. They carried Yi Fei and rushed into the distance at an even faster speed. This also caused a rare look of shock to appear on the gloomy young man's face. You can actually accelerate? Unfortunately, you are definitely not my match in terms of speed. Boom! Endless flames lit up the sky. The gloomy young man completely merged with the fiery light. He was as fast as a ray of light as he coldly continued to approach Yi Fei. Xiao Chao clearly became nervous. Yi Fei was also secretly surprised. He had not expected that the young man behind him would actually be able to compete with him in terms of speed. Rizu is right. Only by entering the divine prefecture can one be considered to have truly stepped onto the martial path. Being able to dominate the green prefecture does not count as my ability. Being able to crush these geniuses in the divine prefecture is true ability. A thick fighting spirit suddenly appeared on Yi Fei's body. Since pure nomological laws were unable to shake off the young man behind him, Yi Fei decisively activated his own divine sense intent at this moment, the bloody battle intent. Every type of intent had different abilities. It could also provide the greatest boost to a divine sense. If nomological laws were the core of a divine sense, then intent was the soul of a divine sense. When a divine sense gained a soul, Yi Fei's speed also suddenly increased explosively. From a speed of an ordinary Tao Lord, it instantly increased to the limit of a Tao Lord. This speed clearly shocked the gloomy young man. What kind of speed is this? No, you are not from the Lord Pan Hall. The Lord Pan Hall does not have such a speed divine sense. Stop! Roar! The gloomy young man roared furiously. As he roared, the image of a divine wolf with wings appeared behind him. This was his divine sense intent, the wind wolf intent, which could greatly increase his speed. Unfortunately, the young man's reaction was still a beat too slow. Just as he released his divine sense intent, Yi Fei had already rushed into the distance and once again left him in the dust. This also made the gloomy young man fall into a frenzy. As he raged, the divine wolf behind him raised its head and howled. After all, the gloomy young man's forte was speed. In fact, in the city of divine monarchs, his speed was definitely the fastest in the Lord Heaven realm. At the same level, no one could surpass him in terms of speed. However, his pride had been completely shattered by a nameless person. Chapter 2298. Number 1 Lord of Heaven Awa. The voice coming out of the gloomy young man's mouth was no longer the voice of a human, but the howl of a wolf king. Hearing this howl, Li Chong and the rest were shocked. Big Brother is really angry. that Yi Fei actually forced Big Brother to use the Wolf King's body? Are we still going to give chase? Some of the Lord of Heaven hesitated. The speed of Yi Fei and the sinister youth was too terrifying. Even ordinary Dao lords would be left in the dust, let alone ordinary Lord of Heaven. Yes, we have to give chase. If we can't catch up, it's a problem of our strength. If we don't give chase, the Heaven Ghoul race's ruins will have nothing to do with us. Stimulated by the treasure, these Lord of Heaven didn't dare hold back anymore. They all gritted their teeth and started to burn their origin source or bloodline to increase their speed. However, no matter how fast they increased their speed, they were still too slow compared to Yi Fei and the sinister youth. In the end, they couldn't even see the shadows of these Lord of Heaven. Soon, only Yi Fei and the sinister youth were left in the void. They kept flying, their speed increasing. The sinister youth also let out a wolf-like howl. You can't escape. No one can outrun me in terms of speed. If you leave Bai Yanran behind, you can still live. If you take Bai Yanran with you, I'll personally tear you to shreds when I catch up. Roar. As he spoke, the sinister youth took out a divine travel pill and swallowed it, increasing his speed once again. Yi Fei also cursed his bad luck. The youth's speed was now comparable to his Azure Dragon wings. Fortunately, Yi Fei had already made improvements to the Azure Dragon wings. His current speed would only be faster than the original Azure Dragon wings. In the face of the youth's pursuit, Yi Fei finally unleashed all his strength. Boundless dark force erupted like a torrent and merged with the dragon wings on his back, causing them to become even larger and more magnificent. In the end, Yi Fei's entire body became a dazzling straight line that merged into the void. He was like a soaring azure dragon with sparks of fire. The sinister youth was once again left in the dust. I won't let you off. I'll definitely kill you. The sinister youth's furious roar came from behind. No one in the city of God Monarchs has ever surpassed me in terms of speed. If others can't, then even a nameless person like you can't. Bloody flames burned on the sinister youth's body. At this moment, he no longer wanted to catch Bai Yanran. He simply wanted to surpass Yi Fei in terms of speed and crush Yi Fei. Yi Fei only smiled coldly in response. Just because others can't, it doesn't mean that I can't. You are indeed very fast, but unfortunately, you can't outrun me. This speed competition had been going on for almost 2 hours. Yi Fei didn't have any more time to waste on the sinister youth. As he increased the distance between them, he quickly took out a teleportation token. At the same time, he threw the straw doll in his arms into the distance. The sinister youth's expression changed drastically. He clearly saw that the woman in the white dress that Yi Fei had thrown was not Bai Yanran, but a straw doll. He had been fooled. That's right. You've been fooled. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? If there's a chance in the future, let's compete again. Yi Fei smiled and crushed the teleportation badge in his hand. Instantly, a ball of white light enveloped him, and he disappeared into the sky. What was left was the furious roar of the sinister youth and the howl of a wolf. Yi Fei, how dare you fool me? You're finished. Du Chong, will never let you off. I want you dead, Wu. The Wolf King's howl shook the void. Du Chong's eyes were red, and he was like a raging Wolf King. His howl shattered the void and shook the earth. At the same time, Du Chong quickly realized that he had been tricked. Since Bai Yanran wasn't here, and Yi Fei had purposely lured him here, there could only be one place where Bai Yanran was. That was in the valley, within the ruins of the Heaven Ghoul tribe. What Du Chong? He's actually the strongest of the Lord of Heaven of the Palace of the Deity, Du Chong. In the distance, Li Chong and the others were panting. Their faces were full of shock. Although they had already guessed that the big brother in front of them was from the Palace of the Deity, they didn't expect him to be the strongest of the Lord of Heaven of the Palace of the Deity. While Li Chong and the others were still in shock, the face of the sinister youth in the void suddenly squirmed and revealed an unfamiliar face that was even colder. However, this face was filled with rage and a strong, murderous intent. Everyone returned to the valley immediately. This time, even if I don't want the ruins of the Heaven Ghoul tribe, I want Yi Fei's life. Du Chang's face was ferocious. As the strongest of the Lord of Heaven of the palace of the deity, not only had he been defeated by Yi Fei in terms of speed, he had also been fooled. Du Chang was so angry that he wanted to kill someone on the spot. Of course, Yi Fei wasn't interested in Du Chang's feelings. The first thing he did after teleporting back to the valley was to rush to the cave. However, he saw that Bai Yanran was already waiting there. Bai Yanran, what's the situation like? Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. After all, Du Chang had so many people, but none of them had been able to decipher the ruins. However, Bai Yanran was alone. Why? Are you worried about my spiritual augmentation technique? Although I can't compare to a freak like you, it's still more than enough to decipher a small ruin. Bai Yanran placed her hands on her hips and rolled her beautiful eyes at Yi Fei. Her expression was filled with excitement. After all, Bai Yanran had always been a good girl in the deity king's palace. Now that she was suddenly doing something like this with Yi Fei, Bai Yanran obviously found it very refreshing and exciting. Yi Fei's expression suddenly became very serious. Bai Yanran, you and I know what happened today. Don't go back and tell Bai Shizhong. Why? Bai Yanran didn't understand. I'm afraid that your brother will fight me to the death. Yi Fei sighed. Suddenly, he felt that something was wrong. That's strange. Why are you the only one here? Where's Blackie? Yi Fei, that little turtle of yours is very clever. Not only did it help me keep a lookout, it even volunteered to enter the ruin first and help me scout the way. Bai Yanran praised the dragon turtle. However, in the face of such praise, Yi Fei wasn't happy at all. Together with Xiao Chao, their expressions changed drastically. What? You actually let the dragon turtle scout the way? That's terrible. Bai Yanran didn't know, but Yi Fei and Xiao Chao knew very well how fast and how vicious the dragon turtle's black mouth was. Usually it was slightly better with him and Xiao Chao watching. Now that there was no one watching, Yi Fei didn't dare to imagine how vicious the dragon turtle's black mouth would be. There was no time to explain. Yi Fei immediately rushed into the ruin at lightning speed. Bai Yanran was stunned. Why do I feel that Yi Fei is even more anxious than that little turtle? That little turtle is quite clever. Most importantly, it's very pure. Bai Yanran thought about it and quickly followed. As soon as they entered, Bai Yanran's vision turned dark. All she saw was a big black turtle lying on a tall rock in the ruin. It kept sticking its head out and gorging on the fruits of spirit tree under the rock. Its black mouth almost left after images. Chapter 2299. Law of the Blood Sword. Then, Bai Yanran noticed the fruit trees that the dragon turtle was eating crazily. She couldn't help but be shocked. These are bloodline fruits. As the name implied, the bloodline fruit was a special spiritual item that could enhance one's bloodline. At this moment, they were being devoured by a black tortoise. If not for Bai Yanran's presence, Yi Fei would have shouted Xiao Chao and dragged the dragon tortoise out to beat it up. How could such a treasure be wasted like this? Yi Fei immediately walked over and dragged the dragon turtle down by its tail. At the same time, he curiously picked up a bloodline fruit and took a bite. However, he realized that his bloodline didn't have any reaction. He couldn't help but look at Bai Yanran in confusion. The bloodline fruit only works on bloodlines below the 5th rank. It doesn't have much effect on bloodlines above the 5th rank, Bai Yanran explained. Even so, Yi Fei was indescribably excited. Although these bloodline fruits were useless to him, they were extremely beneficial to his family Yi and Lin Feng. Then, Yi Fei felt a sour feeling in his heart, because while he was talking to Bai Yanran, the dragon turtle had swallowed more than 10 bloodline fruits in one go. Yi Fei was so angry that he immediately kicked it. You stupid tortoise, you only know how to eat. Don't you need to use your brain? For example, if you dig out this treasure tree, you can eat as many bloodline fruits as you want in the future. As he spoke, Yi Fei took action. He didn't pick the bloodline fruit, but instead began to dig up the tree. With a few loud rumbling sounds, the treasure tree was dug up by Yi Fei, along with its roots, and placed on his shoulder. Seeing this, Bai Yanran was stunned again and couldn't say a word. The dragon turtle, on the other hand, was already used to it. While Yi Fei was digging the tree, the dragon turtle was already sniffing around like a big black dog. Suddenly, the dragon turtle discovered something. Its dragon eyes became brighter than lanterns. Yi Fei also became spirited. There was no need for the dragon turtle to remind him. Xiao Chao had already discovered the location of the treasure in the ruins. It was a strange pool of blood that flowed like water droplets. When Bai Yanran saw the blood, he couldn't help but feel excited. There's actually earth core divine fire liquid here. Yi Fei found it strange. He used his divine sense to take a closer look at the pool of blood. He was surprised to find that the blood in the pool was actually formed from balls of fire. Strictly speaking, it was not real blood, but a special treasure. Is this divine fire liquid very precious? Yi Fei asked. Of course it's precious. Ordinary bloodline fruits are only effective on bloodlines below the 5th grade, but the Earth Core Divine Flame liquid is effective on bloodlines above the 5th grade. For example, Pan Wang once gave me a drop of divine fire liquid to refine my bloodline. That was how I was able to break the restriction and achieve the 8th grade bloodline. Bai Yanran said solemnly. These words shocked Yi Fei again. His heart was burning with passion. Since this divine fire liquid can improve the 8th grade bloodline, I wonder if it can break the seal on my bloodline? It shouldn't be possible. Your seal is an innate seal. Even with the divine fire liquid, it will be difficult to break the seal on your bloodline. At most, it can improve your realm. Bai Yanran shook his head. She was a genius in spiritual attachment. No one knew better than her about the complexity of the innate sacred runes. They were Tao marks that evolved naturally between heaven and earth. It was very difficult to break them. However, no matter how difficult it was, Yi Fei would never give up. After learning about the powerful effects of the divine fire liquid, Yi Fei took out a porcelain bottle and began to absorb the divine fire liquid. This time, even Bai Yanran was tempted. He quickly took out a porcelain bottle and began to refine the divine fire liquid. The divine fire liquid in the blood pool seemed to be a lot, but when Yi Fei started to refine it, he found that he only had about 3 drops. Bai Yanran was the same. It's a pity that the divine fire liquid in the blood pool is too little. Yi Fei was very regretful. He was already considering whether to dig up the blood pool and take it away. Bai Yanran seemed to have seen through Yi Fei's thoughts. She was startled and quickly stopped him. Yi Fei, this blood pool can't be destroyed. Moreover, it usually takes 1,000 years to form a drop of divine fire liquid, and it has to be in a special blood pool like this. Is that so? That's such a pity. Yi Fei shook his head regretfully. The dragon turtle looked even more unlucky. It still refused to give up and stuck its head into the blood pool to look around. Unfortunately, the divine fire liquid in the blood pool had already been refined by Yi Fei and by Yanran at the same time. It would take at least 1,000 years to form a new drop of divine fire liquid. Seeing this, Yi Fei didn't delay any longer. He carried the spirit tree and suggested to Bai Yanran, since we've already obtained the treasure, let's hurry up and run. I reckon that the Lord of Heaven should be back soon. The other Lord of Heaven wouldn't be as fast, but that Ducheng definitely had the ability to rush back quickly. Yi Fei naturally wouldn't stay in the cave for long. He put away the treasure and quickly walked out of the cave with Bai Yanran. Sitting on the dragon turtle, they randomly chose a direction and sped towards the depths of the core world. It was worth mentioning that after the dragon turtle fused with its bloodline and formed the blood of a 7th grade demon dragon, it had also awakened its natal mystique, the black tortoise's armor. This made the dragon turtle's shell even tougher. Even the Lord of Heaven would have a hard time breaking it. Therefore, even if it faced the vicious beasts of the Lord of Heaven's level, the dragon turtle could ignore them. Yi Fei didn't have to worry that the dragon turtle would become the prey of the other vicious beasts while he and Bai Yanran cultivated. As they left the valley, Yi Fei sat cross-legged on the dragon turtle's back. He carefully took out a drop of divine fire liquid and swallowed it. Reality proved that what Bai Yanran had said was true. Even the divine fire liquid couldn't break the seal on his bloodline. However, the energy contained in the divine fire liquid produced a strange resonance with the natal mystique in Yi Fei's body, the Sword of Slaughter. Under this resonance, countless sword auras suddenly appeared in Yi Fei's mind. Then, these auras condensed like rays of light and actually automatically evolved into a brand new sword rule in Yi Fei's mind. 3-level rule, Blood Sword Rule. Yi Fei slowly opened his eyes. This was the upgrade that the divine fire liquid had given him. Moreover, this was a rule that he had comprehended from the Sword of Slaughter. It could perfectly fuse with the Sword of Slaughter. When the Sword of Slaughter possessed a rule, Yi Fei immediately felt that his Sword Dao had suddenly made a huge breakthrough. If the power of his Sword of Slaughter was only equivalent to that of an early-stage Dao Lord before, then the power of his Sword of Slaughter was now equivalent to that of a mid-stage Dao Lord. I wonder if I'll be able to defeat that gloomy youth in a single strike if I meet him again. Yi Fei was secretly looking forward to it. In the cave, Du Chong's face was gloomy as he looked at the empty ruins. After all, he had not only disguised himself and searched bitterly in the core of the earth for 3 years to find these ruins, but he had also not hesitated to kill many spirit augmentation grandmasters in order to keep this place a secret. In the end, his 3 years of waiting had benefited Yi Fei. What Du Chong couldn't tolerate the most was that even the most ordinary bloodline fruit had been dug up by Yi Fei and carried away along with it. Du Chong was so angry that his eyes were about to burst. Li Chong and the others who had witnessed this scene were even more furious. After all, some of the bloodline fruits and divine fire liquid that Yi Fei had taken away had belonged to them. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.